There we go. Copy. Sorry. Paste. That's right. There you go. Sorry. Changes. Oh, that's right. Duh. Thank you. I just gotta tuck my shirt in. Man, I put this suit on for like the first time in the year. I was like, did not know how much weight I gained. It's like a little, yeah, a little bit snugger than I remember it being. Okay, few changes. Yeah, I mean, it's the last little bit before the event, always a little crazy. 7, 3. Oh, thank you. Can you just, I can try your phone for the club deck because for mine's not working. No, I just have to give me the code. I just got.
And he's like, you text another woman when you're with me. It's like, yeah, I can't stop them. 7953.
Texas.
7953.
7953.
It's still not working.
Hello.
So, oh, I'm sorry.
It's one of the. Yes. Woman from Mayo Clinic is. Hello.
Yes.
Yes. I can hear you.
Alex at medstarter.com or medstarter TV.
Medstarter.com. Medstarter.com. Can you hear me?
For the live event?
Yes, and
No,
it came
she's
back to
emailing.
me as undeliverable.
Alex at Medstarter. There's no second E. MEDSTARTR.
Right.
Really? My email isn't working? So Alex at medstarter.com should work. And the live stream is up right now. You can see me talking on the phone to you, I think. So Pat, right? I looked at it. No,
Yeah,
Pat.
I will try.
Sorry, we're just a little hectic right now.
No, please don't apologize. Go do your thing. I just am interested in being involved and listening and seeing what you guys are doing. So great. That's
No,
all.
it is.
Thank
It
you.
is. No, it's. I'm very happy to have you involved in all that. And you can actually be my tester for the live streams. You can tell me if my shirt's straight.
There's a guy in a white shirt.
That's me. Hello. Yeah, same thing. So yes, so we're just setting this. So this.
Okay, goodbye.
Okay,
Take care. Good luck.
thanks. Thanks for being part of this. Hey, look at that. We can even get all the panelists. This looks good. Oh, okay. She says the live stream's working.
What?
So the
Like,
woman who called,
yeah.
I made her my tester.
Says good.
It's working, right? I'm gonna start it to you. Oh, we didn't set this up yet.
Oh, yeah. Oops.
Well, you got a better thing. Why don't you just make this, fill it out as, you should have a page just on for the audience instead of using the paper, to use the electronic one. And
Okay.
So I just replace that with, replace the graphics of, fill it out online, you don't have to use the paper.
Got it.
Because. So network working, great.
Oops, sorry. Since plug deck's not gonna work, I don't know why, I'm just gonna plug my phone in and just put it like right here, I guess, or here. For the club. So club deck's not gonna work.
She's really screwed here, Mr. Hey. How's the audio? How's the audio? Okay, take the phone away from your thing and tell me how good the audio is. This is Alex, and I'm speaking as if I'm speaking on a stage. Did you hear that? Impressed. Yeah, because you have all the judges are gonna be here. And so the speaker should be over here. You can still see them. Here. It's not the best, so, I mean, if we can turn these front up. Yeah. Yeah, my tech producer had commented, but, 214. What do you mean? What's this one? Oh. I'm sure it's not right. Oh, also, you. I was thinking maybe I'll turn the lights down a little bit. What's this? Huh? Where's me? Explore.
Yep.
So Peter, did you check to make sure your deck works and just what you think of it?
I'm sorry,
Did you check to make sure your deck is good?
what's up?
I did, as the site reps come in, make sure they check the deck.
Okay,
Let me check, he did.
so I don't use the PC a lot. What's the screen capture or take a photo of the screen? Is it Control 4? Control 4. Oh no.
Oh, all print screen.
Okay. Gonna grab this.
Tone Starnes. Dr. Tone.
More than
This is
likely.
okay, Jeff?
Yeah, we were digging it out for 50K a couple weeks ago. That is correct.
Though, it's really interesting that the company that won, in their pitch deck, they declared on their pitch deck that they weren't qualified by the rules of the county.
I did notice that.
They weren't qualified to win, they disqualified themselves?
They-
No,
But in multiple ways, as I noticed.
so the organization, Biologics, had a rule that you can't have previously.
Did it work? Did you try the power?
Sure. I go outside and direct surveillance.
My sister's trying to get me.
Yeah.
to
It's
produce
gonna
her expensive keyback on here. It's in here, which, I was just sugar now, thinking about it. It's a good way to trigger the heat bar.
I just count this.
I've been, I was at a
Hello. How are you?
I need to reset my.
Hey, you know who I was.
I don't believe we know how to do it.
How are you? I'm
Yes,
Sandra
yes,
Washington.
Hi, Sandra and
Hi.
Jessica, it's a pleasure.
I'm
Tony, nice to meet you. Sandra?
Peter. Peter. I'm Sandra.
Hi, I'm Jessica.
Where, do you hang out in?
How are you, Patrick?
Mark,
I'm supposed to be here helping out.
I'm in Ohio. Came in for the day.
Sorry.
Support the.
Much good to go. Got it. So, like, here, well, stuff. Attention, and-
Isaac, right?
No, I'm this.
I did the same.
That's my son.
Oh, okay. Chunk of the island. As usual.
Yeah, they're great. This bag is out there if you want to grab your bag, but then.
You need to grab the
I
bag.
could have it at the town.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's what I need to do.
We just got into the, well,
Sorry.
it's a syndicate of 4,000 mental health. No better than the pitch to angels who might actually write some check. I'm like, well, most VCs are like, healthcare too stuff.
Need.
Okay, we're. Yeah. Drop with experts.
So I do everything in just separate components in general,
Or the year before.
and these
Finals for here.
are these two switches right here. So this one
We just need
are the
to
two
the
specific
demonstration project.
Okay.
to the projector.
Someone's.
And if you're looking for a slightly different, if you, yeah, you can play around with it.
Thank you.
Are you, you said you saw your manufacturing.
And I go back to the gym.
Are you, but I don't know that that you said, so, but did you have to switch or simply?
Yeah, so our main assembly is made out of. These pieces are molded from wood. Bonded together, the original binder and selected. Was became brittle after about 6 months. And so we had to change up bonding agents, and it's been a bit of a chemistry nightmare because neoprene is engineered to make it a very non-volatile material, which makes it also very difficult.
For your inflation. So I had a friend of mine's mother had a bit of a second career designing for Telzon, which is, I don't know if anybody would know this company. They were in early barcoding technology. Telzon, but they created this sort of calculator size thing that would you could put on your wrist, but you wouldn't have to take it off. You could just like sort of Superman it and do all your barcode work and wear it out, so it would speed up. You didn't have to like stop and check things off back in the paper days. So this is the first sort of like now it would it's ridiculous, right? You do what you want, but today, but before RFID, that was the advance. And so but they had a lot of trouble getting like someone in fashion to figure out how to create something that was wearable. She suggested neoprene as a material, and we're gonna have to figure out what we need to do to it. So that we can take it on and off easily because it's not. But
So you
she knew
I
all
could
this
take a picture right
physical features, so she had to sort of build the thing on the edge. They didn't want to use Velcro, so they sort of as a strategy. But then they had to not like catch everybody's hair. So she just had all these like little human factors things that she was totally, her only qualification was making, dresses.
You want me to
Teach
get
yourself.
get one with
Solve all these problems. I thought it was really cool. Anyways, neoprene was the key.
Nice to meet
It was really hard to work with.
No, I'm just here. Don't give it back.
What's your special?
Watch my. Yeah, women and children.
Good, Tony, please.
The moms and the kids.
Where? I did travel most of the years and years.
Patrick, are we supposed to sit up here?
Yes.
Did you want to sit down?
Okay, so you're pitching.
No, you guys walk over. We only got those until we start.
Okay.
Judges sit here,
Judges.
like West, calendar, my kids were.
Don't put my phone.
Wednesday night. No, just. Oh, fascinating.
Done it for 5 minutes. I am, Tony.
Tony, Karen, nice to meet you. Karen, nice to meet you. Are you local here?
No, I'm from Ohio.
Oh, okay, so they're over. Well, Midwest.
Came in, I don't know, just haven't done any kind of in-person, except the accelerator.
Okay.
It seemed like just sort of break the cycle.
Yeah.
Get back in the habit of it. And Alex kept me alive through COVID. We won the AMIA, one of the last events that he ran.
Right before.
Before COVID, just 2 or 3 months. So that's why I'm still here. So I figured that out. Even though it's, I hope it's fine. thought you guys would give up the coats at least for the summer.
I wish. I haven't put a suit jacket on in so long. Like I put this on today, and I was like, oh, it's a little tight on me.
I thought like,
Here.
I was thinking like, I bet you they're gonna show up and, they always seem to have at least the sport coat and jeans, I think that's.
Yeah,
that
I
combination.
went with an outfit that can be convertible. If everybody was in shorts, I was gonna like throw my jacket in the corner.
But I was like, nah, there's no way I'm walking the city.
It's very sticky today.
It was hot and it's like.
Yeah, it's like
it's not-
humid.
I need a blouse.
You need a blouse. Blouses are nice.
Thank you.
I waited Alex for a second.
Oh.
So who I know where he is.
Can I ask your company report? I do. My fiance is Ukrainian, but she's been here since the Yeltsin era.
Sorry,
Good to see
chance.
you. Good to see
How you
you.
doing?
So I've been,
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, sure.
Appreciate it. Should be a good event.
Yeah.
How long have you been with M-Hub for?
Like 3 weeks.
So they just threw you right in.
Yeah.
I get yelled at a lot.
Ooh.
I'd like to know exactly what I'm being.
So I'm trying to find Alex.
Need help with something?
You just need a charger, because I have to set something up, but I know
For
he
the-
has it.
For an iPad,
Yeah,
I have an iPhone charger. You know.
that's perfect. I mean, do you need it though for the event?
No, I don't think so.
So I need to put this fire thing.
Hello.
Brad, how's it going? Pat, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Of course, you're part of the crew.
If I was in that sort of crew, you know.
Quite large.
Is Alex MIA wandering around?
Yeah. I'm guessing you guess you know Alex, and if you know he's
I know,
wondering.
I know.
Oh, you know
I've
him?
never met him before, in person.
So you're also.
I saw a guy that looked like I was smoking outside.
That's probably him.
So figured that. He does seem like the kind of guy that smokes.
Yeah, you know, since I've been with Alex for 1.5 years and he's quit 5 times, I think, since then.
So that's the yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's what you gained from your Zoom meeting with him, is that he seems like.
Yes. Am I wrong?
No, I
You
guess not.
got it.
And I kind of get what you mean, because I've only met him on Zoom also.
Oh, is that right? I'm Brad. by the way.
I'm Heather, hi, nice to meet you. I'm from MedMo.
I'm not part of the posse.
I'm in East
Affiliated
Hampton.
posse.
Where are you from?
It's a,
Yeah.
recently
Over
retired.
a year,
Oh, cool.
I just do.
Was it like in the replacement era?
Nice.
That's gonna be a problem, isn't it?
Right.
Okay.
I remember the lecture.
Might just be us and these.
We were raising money for
Yeah. Oh, great. I'm actually in Smelly.
We're very safe. A lot of medical.
Okay, good to see you.
I know.
Nice to meet you.
Person.
Would you like us up there?
Yep.
Okay,
Perfect, thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Sarah, hi, Rachel Stillman. Oh, yes, yes. Nice to meet you. Hi there. Rachel Stillman, so nice to meet you or see you. Pardon? Oh, thanks, yeah. Well, thank you, yes, I know, I think I got lumped in with the fund announcement, so maybe got more pressing than normal. Yeah. How about you, what are you Awesome, do you know what if you were the Walgreens team? Yeah. Yes, I would imagine, so we were, with, who was it, Greg? Yeah. Yeah, I helped him with, some of the trivia work that they were doing, so they went in on that one together, if you know that, it was, point of care diagnostic.
Yeah.
in San Diego. Yeah. Yeah, how long ago did you retire? About 3 years. Okay, awesome.
All you need is a little on folder.
Good. And how about yourself? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for Baxter, which is a sponsor for the.
Yep.
Switch teams there.
Got it, makes sense, well, keep up such a fun move, doing a lot of this type of work.
It's not very like.
I'm back.
Yeah. I can imagine.
The first one, right out of the gate. I see your vision too.
No, I have not, have you? Nope.
I don't know, what- yeah, I don't know what special.
That'll be
Works are best,
first
so.
time for all of us, I suppose.
So, emergency.
Yes.
17.
Apparently I am.
I didn't use a lot of
Where you
that.
You did. I was like, oh, I just gave a presentation.
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably. I don't mind doing it.
Yeah,
But figured if we had the deck on the last year, might as well get 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah, to help out.
I think it's over the.
Do I just want anything?
This year.
Okay, I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab the water.
So nice, I know we'll chat.
We'll continue chatting later.
But I traveled to last week and
I see something that like, that's where we're at. I was
fun.
looking for your name.
Now I have to answer those. More difficult than the 3-year-old and the 5-year-old. So, okay. Yes.
Are you all on the same team?
Yeah, they're making sure.
Yeah, we're just here. We're sure to make faces at him.
And so I think, I don't know, like how long have you had your startup?
Incorporated person.
Okay, yeah, so I'm like a year out. So
As long as it's an act. Whenever they show,
I knew.
whenever they show my movie on PC, it like ends up sideways, it's stretched out.
I'm small.
There's not much I can do about it.
I don't have any investors
Do
that.
not have like a boot camp schedule.
Okay.
Parents in school yet.
Right.
So I'm doing like 30.
Once a day.
Isn't that crazy? I know some of us were talking about when companies would have to look at the ideas and we can sell that.
Yeah, that's one.
There's a first part.
That's on my head.
I've been,
But so I'm on the staff, but I feel like that everyone was there 5 days a week before and now people are.
Yeah.
Great, and I was hiring.
Did you work as a year?
I didn't work at the chaplain. So I've been.
Hi.
This is great. I
Are
think
you
it's
looking
all
for Pat or Alex?
I saw Pat and away, so I'm just gonna wait.
Be on the lookout for people one.
Yeah. I think I know where I'm supposed to be. So. Hi, I'm Mimi.
Hi, Karen, nice to meet you.
There was days where I had phone calls all day. I think that's like, running.
Do you work nearby?
Like, trying to
No, about an hour
small
west of
conference rooms, and I'm like,
Well, near enough, I guess,
Yeah.
nearer than you.
and I set up a good setup. And I was
Does that allow you to take one train?
We don't have a train that goes all the way out, it stops about 20 minutes further east of us, so we're about, so basically we're about 20 minutes outside of what we consider to be considered the edge of suburbs. Sharing. Oh, DeKalb. They were. Crazy, like we're finally shaking hands.
So I know, right, I know, me neither, I know.
This is the top.
Trying to bring it back. Trying to bring it back.
Right, I know, it was so hard to not.
95% affected.
I doubt it'll stay.
Take advantage.
It's so hard to remember not to for a while. Feels weird. Okay.
And I'm pretty confident in people that I have here.
Right, yeah, right.
Vaccinated.
Now, where do you work or what do you do?
I'm actually from Bristol, but I'm going to just.
Oh, okay, what's your service?
It's traditional.
Yeah.
I just want my institution, so. There's a person of classes.
Oh, great, yeah. Yeah, so you pay them too.
Yeah, personalized program. Because it's easy.
But if I was, I would.
So then who pays you, the insurance company? Yeah, okay, right, because it brings their insurance costs down.
No. I just.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. there's not much.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't know if you are funding yet.
Okay, so you're still just getting on the ground, yeah, okay. Yeah.
So it's like. It's very, yeah, I am. So might have been, had to let that go some of that. It was like about there.
You want me to do that? You want me out there?
So where do you live?
I live in Hyde.
Okay, yeah.
And, my daughter was like, are you using the train? I just said, no, I'm driving. Well, it's like, I wasn't.
I know, but you know, it's just.
How about you? Where did you?
I drove from. So yeah, it took me an hour and a half. In bad traffic, that's what usually maxes out at an hour and a half, like in good traffic. Just to spend over an hour, you know, decent traffic, an hour and 15. Yeah, my kids feel like kids live in the city here. So I'm like, so long. So I don't like. Very good. And then it's like an hour and 20 minutes on the train, so it's like more than driving, so. Plus, I'm reaching time. Yeah, there's one around. Thanks for setting this up.
I looked at flying. First one is
Right, yeah.
So I found a hotel I liked, said it was close to home. And I felt like that, but it was close to, it didn't distinguish.
It was supposed to be.
Like TripAdvisor
campus,
didn't
yeah.
distinguish the campus. And description, so that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but that's a nice area. Thank you.
Yeah. I know. So, like I actually kept the train up. Like I was arriving, it was scary. And then,
Yeah, still so me too. So nice to meet you. Yeah, so you're just like taking the snacks out there.
Well, I saw the user paper, so,
So, but there was like public parking options too.
Yeah, well, that's.
Hey, Patrick.
Yeah.
Kimberly?
Right.
Kimberly, I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
Join in the room now.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Patrick?
Can you hear us?
Yep.
Perfect.
It's kind of a distance in the back, but yeah.
So I'm gonna join and put my phone by the speakers. That way it's easier for everybody to hear them, I guess. Do you think that's the best way to do this?
Well, actually, me and Angelique tested it, and I put my phone by the speaker.
I know, it's fine. Where's good?
Yes, Nikki, I'm talking to Patrick right now. So with me placing my phone by the speaker, we could hear.
All right.
Well, and a lot of them are based on.
So I don't hear like clearly, is anything that's being said outside of what's being said by you. So what you'll need to do is take your laptop and be closer to the speakers in order for the platform to hear.
Once, yeah, the problem is that maybe I'll join on a different laptop because we need this one for the live streaming. So let me get
Okay.
the laptop and set it up.
At that point, I would just grab it and lift all the way from where you are to.
That's the different, I'm glad to hear.
And she was like, I think the mother would be on my side.
It was a nice, I mean, I enjoyed the drive. So.
Go in your room.
I recently. I was trying to do it for a year. The market's insane.
Yeah.
It just, the timing, the ridiculous price.
You got it.
Sort of like.
We're there at the right time.
So
now you're almost.
well, I'm moving with my team.
Okay. Now you have all the money from the sale. It's ridiculous price around your house. You gotta spend it or you're gonna pay capital gains tax,
What I did
right?
was after 34 years of lease and outfit.
That's a big step from minivan to Alfa Romeo.
Nice drive.
I'd say so.
Cruise around.
So you spend all your.
Patrick. Hey, Patrick.
If you really get excited, I want you to
Before there's. Efforts going down. Anyway, it's been more, it'll be more. Right now, there's only one.
They have stuff.
discount.
I saw him like jumping at the He is graduated from college, but he's got his like, he's already spending his big signing bonus.
It was a little more.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It seemed like
Yeah, mine.
people, because I got my son.
No, yeah, anywhere's good.
There's a-
Right.
He's,
You know, when I first started,
I hate
like at 90, it's like a couple balls on it. Balance.
Super.
They're fine. It's a great.
Well, everybody.
So.
This was.
I would say,
So I did that.
I really love it. It's one of my favorites.
Everything kind of came together, it's perfect storm.
But if you wanted to.
It has my.
Yeah, so I gotta use that all my.
Kind of like the Jag.
That was my.
Wow.
Now that I don't have to wait, so it's like a quarter of that.
Except now you have to buy a house. Still.
Well, we're not getting.
Oh, okay. Because the price, you guys will wait. It's crazy. Yeah. You have somewhere to live.
It's interesting.
Yeah, but she's on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
So.
Does she have kids in school? Okay. So you don't need the good schools. Professional marketing, I didn't know that was a thing.
For internet.
That's funny. She can come to you if she wants. If you have an opportunity like that, that's
He
cool.
studied theater. Prior existence of our child.
Uh-huh. Okay.
My
There's like a.
And Matt, no, sorry, Patrick. Hey, Alex. Patrick, I can hear, we can hear very well. I can hear really well.
Test it out, so I'm just waiting for.
I can hear really
I
well.
that out with Patrick behind the
Just,
scenes, and he's providing that their agenda, which is full, is actually on time, which I know their pitches was supposed to start at 7 p.m. 6 Eastern time, and then they're having the panelists at 9 p.m. Eastern time. But in the meantime, just so we have the room going in terms of conversation, Dave, if you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing here on this particular club.
Sure. Thanks, Angie. My name's Dave Brown, CEO, co-founder of Quick Healthcare, and we are transforming ER operations with a digital agent for the physician, help them improve their productivity to get through clerical admin tasks a lot faster, so they can focus on direct patient care. And of course, I'm like everybody else here, super keen about what about Alex and the MedStarter team, their efforts to generate community around health technology. I think I've met a bunch of you, John Hawkins included. Love the energy and the sense of possibility, the future, transformational technology in healthcare. Let's do it. So I'll, with the rest of you, I'll pause and keep my fingers crossed that we can tap into this. And Kimberly, thanks for doing it, huh?
Yes, we are, and thank you so much, Dave. Kim, I see you flashing your mic. Is you want to provide a status, or you're still working behind the scenes with Patrick?
Still working behind the scenes. Hey, Alex. Still working behind the scenes.
Okay, so
Take me off mute, Alex.
John, if you can
Alex,
just introduce yourself, and let me reset the room. Alex, MedStarter Healthcare Innovation has opened back since COVID.
Alex.
They're taking their world tour, which is something he did before Clubhouse.
Alex.
They're in Chicago. They had a full agenda this
Alex,
morning.
take me off mute.
They're about to have their pitches,
You have it on mute.
which he posted on LinkedIn.
If you
I think
remove,
there may be 7 or
take the
8
X off the off the mic in the bottom
and
left.
Here we're trying to
Okay, there you go.
have
So we've gotten the room started, and I know Patrick has launched another one, but we can hear.
I don't know how Patrick has this set up. There's two machines you're doing this. So this is the machine for this. If you want me to take this one off mute.
For me to, from Boston, where I currently live.
Well, with that on mute, we can't hear you.
Chicago, super excited for this. I know MedStarters is going to come to Boston, I believe, in October, and anything I can do to help manage, orchestrate.
So the room, the clubhouse room is setting up. We got people coming in.
You're live streaming.
Thanks.
This is just for
So this one, yeah, we don't want
But most importantly, brilliant startup. We take the cardiac MRI. We help doctors diagnose heart disease. In essence, we're waging war against heart disease, and it's a good battle, my friends. So super excited to be here tonight. Michael, great to see you, my brother. Angelique, Kimley, and Dave, Aisha. Let's rock it. I'm a little bit jazzed up.
Hello and welcome to MedStarter Momentum, Chicago, Reopening the World Tour. We usually do 20 events like this a year in different cities around the country and soon other countries. We had planned on doing this last year, going to Barcelona, Berlin, etc. Last time we were in Chicago was actually 2016. We did it in Matter. Matter wasn't open yet, so thankfully DePaul came forward, thanks to Paul Machado and Barbara Rapchak. Two of our great partners and sponsors that work with us all over the place. So the whole idea of this event is to find really great startups and to engage and to have great discussions on topics that are relevant to us, people who are interested in healthcare. And who are us? There are patient activists. Anybody here a patient in the room?
So everyone is going to be a little bit different because what
patient activists are people like me who get excited and engaged in trying to change healthcare from outside of healthcare, essentially, from within the system as a patient, but not really within the system. Care providers are also very important. So if you look at the MedStarter logo, it's actually 4 stakeholders holding hands: patients, providers, institutions, partners. You'll see that our panel today, as well as a lot of the startups and a lot of people in the room, represent all of those things. I was a healthcare CIO when I was a kid. I also started a bunch of companies, some of which affected their lives in some ways or another. So that's pretty exciting. But now what I get to do is I get to find startups that are doing really great things and helping them along. So we have an amazing portfolio of companies. Started a venture fund in 2017, an accelerator as well. So we accelerate a lot of companies. So today you've got but I'm not the arbiter of what is cool in this place. It's actually you guys. Okay, so you notice in front of you are forms. I think that when we're all engaged in new ideas in healthcare, it's going to do a bunch of things. One, it's going to help the startups get forward faster because people are going to say, hey, I like that idea. I got some suggestions for you. Maybe you can come to my hospital and we can do a pilot or what have you. Or maybe I want to invest, right? So those kinds of interactions happen at these events all the time. Very first event I went to back in April Fool's Day 2009, that probably tells us something. But I saw 2 people meet. One had a pill bottle with a scale in it. The other was a marketer. They made a company, and that company did really well. We also saw ZocDoc form, Able to form, Medable, Misfit Wearables. These are all companies that pitched on our stage, and they're not companies or just gotten started. So you've got some amazing panelists tonight. They are mostly here, but also and they'll introduce themselves in a bit. I just want to take you through some of the basics. MedStarter, the MedStarter Momentum World Tour, we've talked about that a little bit. So after this, we're going back to New York. We already did an event in New York. We did one in Orlando and Philadelphia. And those are small and they're getting bigger. So it was 3, then 6. And last Monday we had 12. And so today we have about 40 people registered, which, look, I understand that reopening the world is not that easy, but we're just the kind of people to do it. Because when we usually do these events, we get 100 to 2,000 people at big conferences and things like that. But we're really excited because you have some amazing startups. You've got amazing, brave panelists who came here tonight, and all of you. So we're getting back to being open. Everybody vaccinated? Let me just check that. Vaccinated? Anybody not vaccinated? Somebody raise your hand if you're not vaccinated, because we're all going to just riddle you with, why aren't you getting vaccinated? I did it to somebody this morning. I do it every day to somebody. Anyway, so we love having these events. Why? Because we love helping startups get going faster. And we know that folks like you in the room, especially panelists, are the kind of people that help startups. And then when they say they're excited about an idea, we get excited about it. We put them into the due diligence process, and then we invest and accelerate the best companies. So this is the schedule for tonight. This is me blathering on for a little bit. Usually we have alcoholic beverages. I'm sorry DePaul would not let us have them. So we are going to go out afterwards. So if anybody wants to go drinking with us, we'd like that. Not the drinking necessarily, more the social interaction. Then we're going to hear from Rachel. We're going to talk about trends in healthcare innovation. So, which is exciting because they're both associates in venture firms. Usually you hear like, some old man like me talking about it. I didn't want to hear myself talk. I actually much rather hear them talk. And you see what they have to say on the topic, because I think they have really unique perspectives. I mean, Patrick has seen so much stuff. I'm sure Rachel has too. So I asked them to get together and do that. It's actually mostly Rachel's talk, but Patrick's gonna add in too. And then we've got 7 amazing startups, some of which we met on Clubhouse, some of which we met before. And that's been a really great experience, Clubhouse. If you guys don't know what Clubhouse is, you can ask me or Sandra or Pat. We spent a lot of time there, and we do things. And then we're gonna have a little networking break, and then you're gonna get to hear from the panelists. Now I'm gonna start here, and we're going to have a discussion on what the future of healthcare innovation is like in COVID. And this can also be a general discussion. Other people can pipe in with questions or comments or whatever. I'm gonna do some light moderation there, but I'm mostly let them talk amongst themselves. And I send them a bunch of questions to think about, but I'm sure they all have interesting thoughts on the topic. So that's pretty much everything else. We run a venture fund. We already talked about that a little bit. Judging. Okay, so there's 2 ways to judge it. You guys are all judges, as far as I'm concerned. Here's what I want you to do. Either use the paper, and if you need a pen, there's some pens floating around. You can do that, and this actually has 2 sides. So the first side is the actual judging information, but the second side is also very interesting too, because this is if you really want to get involved in any of these companies. Mark it down. We'll make sure that they find out. Right, so we'll collect all these at the end, but also you can scan this barcode and it takes you to bit.ly/MM Judge, MedMo Judge, and that is an online version, and it's going to make Tony's job a lot easier because he's doing the data entry. And if you're wondering why a contestant is doing data entry, he actually already won a contest. He's already been through due diligence, but I want to hear an update from him. I want to see how he does, and I want to help go forward even faster. So anyway, the rubric is pretty straightforward. It's written on the bottom here. Basically, would you give them your money? How clinically relevant is it? And all the other things that are written there. You can read that on your own time. So we started out as a meetup group where we had events like this. So this is kind of like our DNA, doing things like this. And then we started MedStarter, which MedStarter.com was the first healthcare crowdfunding site, still exists, and we still use it for contests. And more about MedStarter. We got a lot of stuff about MedStarter. So the mentor network is very important. People ask me, well, how do we help the startup so much? Well, it's because if I call Con and I say, Con, there's this MRI innovation. I'd like to have a look at it or talk to them or whatever. He'll actually talk to you, right? Because Con's first spoke at one of my events in 2016. We have him on Clubhouse sometimes, and I consider him, a good mentor that I can point people to and say, I know this guy, one of the smartest guys in healthcare, and he knows this space really well. And if Con likes it, then I'm gonna like it, right? So that's kind of how it works. And it's a huge network. There's over 1,000 mentors in it. People who started to change healthcare, people who started Health 2.0, and just really amazing people. Special thanks to especially Pat Hurd up there in the audience. You're gonna see from later, he works for me. But also Jessica Person helped set things up, and Leanne Pinder's back there, and all sorts of other folks, and Beautiful Matter, and Paula Machado particularly, and of course all the judges. So we have other sponsors and things like that, and especially in this case with DePaul University. So that's pretty much all I have to say at this particular point in time. Patrick and you guys want to come up and do your trends in healthcare? While Pat is setting that up, I'm going to ask the judges and panelists who aren't going to be active in this particular thing to introduce themselves a little bit, just 30 seconds each while these guys are setting up their thing. So,
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brad Friggle. I spent most of my career either consulting to or working in health plans, the biggest ones. And then my last corporate gig was at Walgreens, where I was the chief strategy officer, the chief commercial officer. And then I semi-retired about 3 years ago, and now I'm on a handful of boards, and then advised and invested about a dozen early stage healthcare.
Very cool.
Rohini. I'm a biomedical engineer, and for the past 20 years, I've developed software solutions and driven digital transformation initiatives at global organizations. For the past 12 years, I've really focused on healthcare IT, and most recently at a health system where I helped develop a electronic health record roundup. And now I'm working on my startup. It's a digital health startup focused on consumer behavior change, and really excited to be here and good luck to all the founders presenting today.
Con?
I'm Khan Siddiqui. I'm the Chief Medical Officer and Chief Strategy Officer currently at Hyperfine. Prior to that, I was founder of Piggy, based out of Chicago. Before that, spent time at Microsoft running engineering teams in the Health Group and Xbox and a few other places. I'm a diagnostic radiologist, practiced for 10 years, was faculty at UC Maryland and Hopkins before I moved to industries. That's my background.
I think that's fine. Did everybody jot that? Go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ann Washington. I am a patient and I'm a patient advocate, more importantly. My goal is to teach patients not only how to speak, to use their voice, which is their most powerful tool to speak, but to make sure that their voice when they speak is heard. So my mantra is speak up, speak loud, speak often. And it's an encouragement to patients for us to be able to get those things that we rightfully want and get the optimal health care.
Hi, everybody. Heather Walsh. I'm at MHub, which is Chicago's Product Development and Manufacturing Incubator. I joined their to head up their new accelerator program and lead the MedTech cohort. So we just opened applications for a new cohort in our accelerator program focused on med devices, specifically physical products. And before that, I was at Baxter, and previous to that, doing technology commercialization.
Mamta Swarup is the only one not here yet. She went to the wrong building. So she's our physician representative. Are there any other doctors in the house? Anyone? Yes. Oh, yes, of course, Karen. So feel free to fill in for Mamta. So there's I dropped out. So
Right, is there a doctor on the plane?
Anyway, yes, so now I'm gonna leave it to the youngins. And sorry, as the 50-year-old plus, you know,
I'll take it. I'll take it.
So, do we know how to turn the lights up? Just because you guys are.
Is it hard to see?
Oh, no, this is fine, but you guys look very dark.
Oh.
Okay, so let me turn this to you guys and go for it. Take it away.
Okay, thanks so much, everyone. We will keep this brief. Today, we're going to talk very high level about where we see the future of digital health going in what we're calling a peri-pandemic world. I'm Rachel Stillman, as he had mentioned. I'm a senior associate at Seven Wire Ventures. We're an early stage digital health focused venture capital fund investing acutely in this thesis that we call the informed connected healthcare consumer, which I'll touch on momentarily. And so really going to be looking at the future of health today through the lens of what this means for the consumer. Patrick.
Hey everyone, I'm Patrick Hurd. I work with Alex at MedStarter. I'm an associate there. I'll be helping Rachel give her speech, and towards the end, I'll be saying some trends that I've noticed through healthcare innovation. I'm happy to present with her.
Great, thanks, Patrick. So don't need to tell this audience, right, that today's healthcare system is broken, but certainly just want to level set on what are some of the challenges that are underpinning the system that really are shaping where digital health is going today. Obviously, rising costs is something that no one in this audience is not aware of. Today, we have over $10,000 spent per capita across individuals in the U.S. healthcare system. Access barriers, gaps in insurance coverage and declining outcomes continue to plague our system. And so really setting a nice opportunity, if you will, to drive change in digital health. And so these systemic challenges are really fueling this concept, which we at Somewhere call the consumer hassle map. So thinking about the 5 core tenets that are really driving challenges for the healthcare consumer and where there are opportunities for digital health organizations to really drive change across transparency, quality, cost, access, and coordination. Of course, everyone knows, right, that COVID has further intensified many of these challenges and creating new needs for the healthcare consumer, which Patrick will talk about later on in our presentation. Most notably, I would say, some of the 2
primary trends and needs coming out of the pandemic, of course, is the second pandemic, right, of mental health challenges. Today, nearly half of individuals in the US have anxiety and depression, which is just, again, a rate like we've never seen before. And we now have a surmounting level of deferred healthcare needs that have taken place throughout the pandemic, and a new type of consumer that's really open and looking for opportunities to receive their care remotely. And so because of this, the new healthcare consumer is very eager and excited to try digital and telemedicine solutions. Particularly, I'll flag that, over 2/3 of individuals are now receiving their mental health services virtually, which is just, again, a rate that we haven't seen before. And so, again, I'll flag these trends as Patrick talks about what we intend to see in the future of digital health. But mental health is certainly one of the core challenges where we see quite a bit of opportunity to drive change. And what's most exciting is as we think about some of the willingness across consumers to try digital health solutions, we are even more excited about the fact that many of them are loving the experience that they have when engaging either with the telehealth service or with a mobile platform. And so we see this as really an accelerant for some of the areas of adoption and acceleration, for the broader industry going forward. At Sunwire Ventures, and how we see the future of digital health, we really look at the industry through this lens that we call the informed, connected healthcare consumer. And so thinking about how do you leverage digital health solutions to transform patients into what we call informed, connected health consumers. So purposefully thinking about how can digital health really provide individuals with technology, data, information to ultimately become stewards of their own healthcare journey, and transforming them from this concept of a patient that receives reactive care into a consumer that has a greater interest in and decision-making role in their healthcare experience. And so as we look forward, many of the solutions that we get very excited about are ones that are amplifying this idea of an informed, connected healthcare consumer. I'll also flag some trends that are underway, and I'd be remiss not to talk about some of the regulatory policies that have either been approved or are in discussion about the permanency of some of the virtual care platforms that have occurred during COVID, most notably the telehealth or the Telemental Healthcare Access Act of 2021 is currently in discussion, which if passed would open up a whole new door of opportunities for Medicare patients to receive mental health care virtually. And then on the Medicaid side, we've seen a ton of activity at the state level that is really helping eliminate access barriers, expand coverage, and hopefully provide some level of reimbursement parity for Medicaid patients who are receiving their care virtually, and really helping to address some of these access and barrier and geographic barriers. So because of all of this activity that I just described, we have now seen an unprecedented amount of digital health funding. When I was putting this data together, I had to double check the numbers because it's quite frankly astounding. COVID, of course, has amplified, I think, what already was an accelerant and a trend that was happening in the industry, which was this shift from digital health, which 10 years ago was kind of this new sector of technology, to one that has really gained widespread adoption and has started to mature. And so because of that, we started to see new deals come through that are later stage, larger sized rounds, and much more mature. And so we think those mature companies will really fuel a lot of the market activity going forward as we move outside of the pandemic into this new normal. And with this unprecedented rates of funding, we've also seen quite a bit of activity in the form of mergers and acquisitions and exit opportunities. While some of the M&A activity has slowed and transitioned from private market consolidation to public market exits, I will note that we have seen
a different type of acquirer enter the industry. So 5 to 7 years ago, it was primarily, exits from private equity organizations, providers, or health plans. And now we're seeing quite a bit of lateral mergers and acquisitions within digital health. I'll flag one of our portfolio companies, just because I can't help myself, Livongo and Teladoc, which I think was kind of the starting race of some additional lateral expansion that we plan to see in the industry as some of the larger, broader players acquire some of the smaller point solutions. And so another kind of big event of this year, right, has been much of the public market exit activity we've seen, not just through IPOs, but of course through SPACs, as again, I'm sure many of you are aware. Oscar, I think, is probably the headliner in 2021 as it relates to traditional IPOs, but we've seen a ton of healthcare SPACs enter the industry, most notably Clover Health, Hims and Hers. And so as we look forward, we are really excited about the market's interest in acquiring digital health solutions. And also that, now analysts understand how to evaluate digital health companies. Whereas 2 to 5 years ago, we were having discussions about, how do you even think about valuing and understanding the business model of digital health. So it's really just been a pretty transformative conversation in the past 2 years, and think that this is going to kind of fuel additional investor interest into the market. And so now as we look forward, I'll transition it to Patrick, who will talk about some trends that we are thinking about as we look ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Rachel. As Rachel said, these are some of the major trends we see in healthcare. The first one I talk about is that with the adoption of telehealth and home care, patients are now able to receive care at a cheaper and more comfortable environment. Like you said, 2/3 of patients are now receiving mental health, and I believe 60% of patients are having telehealth appointments with their doctors beforehand. But also, I think a major trend that we see in the United States is elder population, and as the elder population increases, we see that home care startups and major companies have been growing rapidly at about 20 to 30% year over year. And I believe as the population keeps aging, we're going to keep seeing that increase. Mental health services has exploded in the last few years. No longer is it a taboo subject to talk about any issues you're going through mental-wise. It used to be an issue. And we see companies from meditation companies like Headspace, who now, I believe last year raised $96 million funding-wise, to companies. So bring up one of our portfolio companies. Sorry, I just got nervous. God.
Sorry, you're doing great, man.
Valera, yeah. Thank you, Alex. Our company, we invested in Valera, which brings telepsychiatry to the patients. And these telepsychiatry companies are great because they're bringing care to people who usually won't be able to receive these mental health services, whether it be underrepresented communities or people in rural communities who there may be 1 or 2 psychiatrists in the county, let alone the town. And thanks to these new services, we see them finally getting the care they need. And one of the biggest things I believe we're going to see is consumers are more connected to their data now. They're able to use RPMs, remote patient monitoring. They're able to see what they're doing, how they have to change. And a big thing that goes into effect in about 5 hours is the CMS Data Interoperability Act, which will require Medicare and Medicaid patients to have direct control over their data. So now they're able to actually bring their data and require insurances and providers to share data to apps or to future providers and new providers are going to. And this is going to explode the opportunity for patients to actually receive new care and be connected to the care that they need. And another major step we see is health equity. For a long time, as I'm sure everybody knows, like underrepresented communities such as Black, Latino, Asian communities receive worse care in the United States than their Caucasian counterparts. But over the last year, especially, we've seen that people are addressing this issue from the fact that they're making companies directly for these communities, or the fact that clinical trials or pilots and stuff like that, make sure that these communities are represented fairly, such as like the LGBTQ. Now there's a requirement that, you know, these people have to be in these trials for it to become validated. And we, some special companies I've seen, like they focus in, such as like the Indian population, and they just focus on training AIs for that one specific group, which is a big step up from last year. I believe that most of the AI startup companies, they mostly just use Caucasian populations, which have different determinants of health. So basically all this coming together is that these patients now are able to receive care that they need, whether it be from a wearable, from talking to doctors through telehealth, through Zoom, through whatever they can. It's able to really connect these different parts of the community together and the stakeholders together. Thank you.
So that concludes the warm-up portion of our show. By now, we're gonna ask the judges. Actually, we're still missing a judge, so Monta's not here. So Patrick, you gotta get back down here. So now we're gonna have our first startup. Come on up, right? That's where we're supposed to be in the schedule, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so ReOpen, led by. There you go. Oh, yes. I reviewed your application. There's a flying mouse here. So here's how this works. Patrick's your timer, right? Patrick does everything.
Let me get my phone.
So you have 4 minutes to talk, okay, as indicated. They're gonna get 4 minutes to ask you the hardest questions they can think of.
All right.
Okay, and you gotta cover, well, you know what you gotta cover, right?
Yeah.
Patrick will basically signal you when you're out of time. And I don't know if you know, but my last name is Fair. My contests, I try to make them fair, right? So you only get 4 minutes.
All
And
right.
if you do go over, they're probably gonna ask you the questions you forgot to cover, like your ask or what have you. And everybody out there in the audience, I do want you to either use the online form or the paper form, because I need your input to figure out if I'm gonna invest in Bob, okay? Because my investors want only the best. So, and since I'm one of my investors, I also want only the best. Anyway, okay, so timer, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, you got your clicker. Really, that's your deck? You put Martha on top of you? That's very nice. It's look at it, you've got the right colors.
Trying to smooth you a little bit here.
Look at that. No Saturday, no, I'm kidding. Anyway, so okay, so this actually is the live stream for hey guys, sorry I wasn't in front of the mic before. For the live stream.
No, that's for Clubhouse.
This is for Clubhouse, and that one's right. And this is recording audio, and that's recording video. So whatever you say will be held against you.
All right, you're right.
Okay, so I will get out of the way and shut up, judges. Please make sure you ask further questions. Take it away.
All right, hi, I'm Bob Thoman. I'm president of Brightbot. I've been around for a year now. I'm here tonight. I'm looking for some investment. I'm looking for some partnerships in marketing, manufacturing, and the clinical areas. So I want to bring the Brightbot UVC protocol to more than 56,000 hospitals, ambulatory clinics, and nursing homes throughout the U.S. and then throughout the world. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm a physician assistant in the ER, and I'm also an electrical engineer. When COVID hit, last year, we weren't prepared. We didn't have enough PPE, so I started making UVC lights to help sanitize rooms after the COVID patients. From that, I noticed that, hey, these rooms, I've known them for a long time, the rooms aren't that sanitized. So, we use our normal cleaning protocol, or I follow the normal protocol. So I wear gloves, I gown up, I put masks on, I go see the patient, I touch the patient, then I grab an otoscope, and I touch equipment, and I touch the curtains. Like, how often do they clean curtains? Like, never. So, I thought, I could do something to make this better. So that's how Brightbot came around. So, I love the name of the event, MedMo ReOpen the World, which is great after COVID, but I don't want to go back to where we were before COVID. A world where, hospital and healthcare environments are never satisfactorily cleaned, it's unacceptable. So that's what I'm doing here. So what's at stake? Hospital-acquired infections. So the cost of this, 2 million patients are affected by this. There's 90,000 deaths a year, and $25 billion to $45 billion a year are spent on infections we don't have to have. So how do we normally do it? Normally, housekeeping goes in after a patient's in a room. They wipe it down, they mop, they change the linens. If they want to clean it better, sometimes they use UV lights. And the stuff out on the market now, $25,000 to $125,000 for a light. They're complex. They have software. They have digital interfaces. That's all fine, but it's inefficient. You can't use that across the hospital. It's too expensive. It's not easy to use. If you put them at the end of the protocol, it adds time to your cleaning process, which then slows down patient flow. It just doesn't work well. So that's why I came up with BrightBot. My most expensive unit is $8,900. You can put it in a room. It's simple enough to use. Nurses or techs can put it in a room after the patient leaves. Leave it in for 5 or 10 minutes during the time it takes the cleaning staff to get there. So you're not adding time onto the cleaning process, not stopping patient flow. It's cheap. You can buy 10 to 15 of them for the price of the stuff that's out there right now. So I want to do it on every infectious room or in every patient that has an infectious process. Clean the rooms, clean the walls, the pathogens that are building up patient after patient after patient. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So costs per year, there's no software, no licensing fees. It's about $500 a year for replacement bulbs. That's it. This is a kind of a picture of the one of the units. Anybody can use it. A tech, a nurse. You go put it in a room. You plug it in. You shut the door. Remote controller. You turn it on. Leave it on for a specified period of time. Take it out, and you're done. So anyway, let's see where we're at here. Change. So what are the benefits? You keep the rooms cleaner. You protect staff and patients. You don't add time to your cleaning protocol, and staff satisfaction. You keep people around. Hospitals can use it for promotion to the public. Hey,
Sorry, time.
we're done. All right. So, all right.
Okay, so we've got 4 minutes for the judges, and I'd like to, don't start the time yet. Mamta Swaroop, friend and physician, has arrived. So Mamta, please introduce yourself. Sitting right here.
Right here. Hi. My name is Mamta Swaroop. I'm a trauma care surgeon for the last 11 years. I also run a not-for-profit organization called the Sultana Foundation. And currently we have a campaign going on called Unite for India, which is what we're working on. And we are providing aid to India for the COVID crisis as well as for the aftermath.
And I actually got to know her through the United for India project, which is what you work on. And we raised about $4 million. And so really exciting time. Anyway, so would you like to ask the first question?
So as opposed to other cleansing lights, UV lights, why yours versus any other light?
Our price point, we're a lot cheaper. Like I said, it's simpler to use, so anybody can use it. It's not a complicated thing. Our hospital was going to buy one 3 years ago, and it was $100,000, and they couldn't get it. It was 3 FTEs to use it. So just the price is prohibitive. So,
but looking at that unit, it doesn't cost anywhere near $8,000 to build it, does it? I mean,
no.
Why is it so expensive?
What I found out was, people look at other units that are $100,000 and look at mine if I charge $4,000 and why is yours so cheap? What's wrong with it? So that's why.
It's fluorescent bulbs on a stick.
Why does it cost $125,000 for the other one? I don't know. Okay.
But is there something that's preventing someone else to say why 8,200? I'll give you one for like $500 or something.
Oh,
I mean, what I'm asking is there any technology there or any patentable piece to how you change? the
How, like, does mine have anything super exciting compared to anybody
that
else?
someone else can't replicate
No.
for cheaper? Yes.
No, but I'm doing it cheaper than all the other people, so.
But why couldn't they just
No.
decide at some point to match that? I mean, if there's not an innovation that's creating your ability to get that, other than, is it lower supply chain costs, or is it just that you're not?
You're gonna have to ask them, because I don't know why they charge so much. My goal was to get something out there to keep us safe and, you know, to do it as quick as possible. And part of this is the protocol too. So it being so cheap, you can put it at the beginning of the protocol, which nobody does. Infection control always wants to put it at the end. And being cheap enough, you can do it in a lot of rooms. Like we did this in my ER. So for last year, all the COVID patient rooms, we sanitized them. The techs put it in there, cleaned it for 5 to 10 minutes. Then the cleaning staff came in. It was a seamless process. Everybody felt a lot safer. Patients liked it, staff liked it. I'm like, why don't we just do this everywhere? So that's.
So it's deployed now?
Yes. So I have 11 of them at my hospital. We've been using them for the last year. You know, it's allowed me to kind of tweak things over the last year and get it to where it needs to be. So.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Is that just for hospitals, or is that also for like skilled nursing facilities where we
Yes.
have an overabundance of people that have?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I think, you know, anytime you can't have it in the room with the person, you know, it has a remote control, but, you know, for example, I'm donating a couple of them to a pediatric oncology camp, summer camp next month. So they can use it to clean the dining rooms and, you know, different rooms in the camp for the kids and stuff. So you can use it, dentist offices, use it there, nursing homes would be great, healthcare facilities anywhere. So.
How do you think about scaling your commercialization? Any thoughts?
So
how do you scale your commercial?
You know, obviously I need to partner up with somebody. I'm doing it myself. So right now that's, I'm learning that, you know, this is my first time doing this, that's not going to work for a large scale. So I need to, you know, hook up with a manufacturer and somebody can market this. You know, they're relatively easy to make. I can make one, and, you know, after I have it you know, all the metal fabricated, I can put it together in about, you know, 1 to 2 hours, you know, per piece. So, you know, I've started advertising on, you know, medical device sites and things like that. I'm talking to some of the bigger like Sodexo and these sort of people that do environmental services, you know, that have hospitals across the country and things like that. So
Great. That's time for minutes. Unless.
Can we ask questions on
No,
Clubhouse?
no, 4 minutes. That's how we get this scheduled. Okay, so if you guys haven't done this, yes, round of applause.
Questions from Clubhouse?
And while we get the next speaker up, I'm going to explain to everybody what we're doing. So, rather proud of the scannable part that Patrick put in. Interesting trivia, I actually wrote the first software that connected our phones and cell phones, like in 1999, I got 9 patents for it, so I'm also proud of that. Anyway, but, so what you can do is you can use the paper version, and I want you to think about whether this has clinical benefit potential, whether it's feasible, that it'll work, whether it's innovative, whether if it was your money, you would give it to them in fundable, and you think you'd get an investment back, whether you think it's scalable. Now granted, you know, these are very early stages. He doesn't know all the right answers, but those things you can be taught. Anyway, so presentation quality and how you do this presentation. So, so tell us what you really think. And you can offer to share some or all of it with the startups. I think of it as it's important to tell people what they're doing wrong early on. So I think, you know, to be cruel to be kind is actually not a bad thing. So please don't pull any punches. I mean, people need to hear what they're doing wrong. Yeah. So anyway, so I just did my first one on my phone. It's very easy. Thank you, Patrick, for creating that. Oh, Brooks is here. Sorry. No. Patrick, you ready?
Yep.
Is
Is everybody done with the first judging? Everybody? Any more time? Anyway, okay, so Brooks won one of our pitch contests on Clubhouse. So take it away.
Well, thank you, Alex. Thank you all. I'm here to talk to you guys today about fall prevention as a service. And that's help.ai, two P's like patient practice. This year, next month, marks 21 years in healthcare for me, specifically around patient experience and patient safety. I'm under 40 and I'm really motivated and excited to move on to my second startup. I currently have a first startup. It's forward thinking.
Okay.
That's forward thinking. And what we did was, I had a close friend that died of a hospital-acquired infection in Denver. And I decided to found forward thinking. And what I went after was, I went after Purell as an investor as well as a partner. So that startup currently OEMs to Purell and another Chicago-based company called ReOpen that does call light systems in hospitals. I built a really good, strong team around myself. And then again, OEMing this platform really allowed me to move on to some other things. I build strong teams. That's what I do. And that allowed me to move on to this next thing. $34 billion a year is spent every year in patient falls related to patient falls in hospitals. Our solution is an AI compliant nursing assistant. I have a quick demo here to show you. I don't dare do it live, but let me play that. Maybe.
I can vouch for it. It is pretty cool.
Maybe there was a video here. Huh.
Basically makes you into a stick figure and tracks all the places.
Well, I'll just talk through this. So what this is a demo for when you would put a patient in a chair in a particular patient room. Generally, if they're a high risk to fall patient, you don't want them to get up on their own. So you stick them in the chair, you give them their call light button, and you let them know to call the nurse when they need to get out of bed or even in this chair. In this case, out of a chair. What this demo is showing here is I can sit on my couch in my office and it will know whether or not I'm sitting or standing. I can show this video later if you guys have some more questions. But what this would be is a camera that sits into a patient room. And this is an embedded camera. It can also sit on an iPad. Anecdotally, we've found that there's about 40% of all patient beds currently, because of COVID, now have an iPad at bedside, and we'd like to leverage that as a potential vector to get this pushed through. What happens is this camera will sit in a room or an iPad, will watch the patient. If they're in a bed, it creates an alarm. And if they try to get out of bed, it triggers a bed exit alarm. Because this can predict that, we can predict up to a minute of early warning before the patient actually falls. Most of our current competitors, generally it's a bed exit alarm in the bed. And if they try to get out of bed, oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. If they try to get out of bed, an alarm will go off. However, generally the problem with these is the patient is generally on the floor by the time the alarm goes off. So the injury has occurred, there's not a way to prevent that from happening. These are the injuries from falls at a hospital. This was a 2016 numbers. So 245,000 to 350,000 patients fell while in the hospital and potentially should have been injured. Generally what happens is 6 additional days will be added to their stay. Creating a 26.9% readmission rate once they're injured and leave the hospital. 26% of them will come back. That's all on the hospital. The moment that fall occurs, those 6 additional days, that can add up between 8 to 16,000 up to 30,000 per incident. Generally, if somebody falls, they'll probably fall again, and that would extend that day from 6 days to 14 days. Long-term care also is where another place this can fit in. 29 million falls happened, 3 million ED visits, and then out of those, 800,000 hospitalizations and then 28,000 deaths. It's almost as much as car accidents per year.
Brooks, I'm sorry, time. Just finish up.
Okay, I'll be really quick. So market size, 13 million beds worldwide, 900, just under 1 million beds in the US. We have access to a network of highly trained distributors across the world that I've worked with in my previous startup. Our analytics, we can get good analytics that come out of this. Our model is $780 per bed per year as a service, so that's a SaaS model. So we're not providing this from a capital purchase, we're bypassing all of that, we're going straight to OpEx budgets to try to move this forward faster. Here's some of our competitors. Most of them are multi-focused or really expensive. There's another competitor over here that's pretty expensive and they're focused, but they're not using technology, they're using people. So here's our team.
Let's move on to Q&A.
Sure, no problem.
This cuts into your Q&A time.
No
So
problem.
only it's 4 minutes total, so let's leave some time for questions.
Has it been validated? What evidence have you pulled together that is actually working?
So anecdotally, we pulled together evidence. We're getting ready to start some clinical trials with the NIH. Clinical trials, we're not FDA. We're not necessarily going after your FDA just yet, but more of initial clinical trials to validate our product. We put a hospital room into a video game engine, and that's how we trained our AI. And then we've been anecdotally training that with our hospital partners. We're starting our initial trials with the NIH as well as some other hospitals in Texas this month, or actually in July.
Do you have an IP around all this stuff, and how are you preventing others from what's the IP moat around this?
Sure. So our IP moat is going to be through a technology transfer from the NIH as well as from NASA. We've burned really far stages along with them, along with the product, and both of those organizations very much like to transfer technologies to things that make sense outside of their current fields.
So you have exclusive rights? You have exclusive rights on it?
We haven't gotten quite that far yet, but there are a couple of the patents. There's about 8 patents that we're working through from the NASA portfolio that will give us access to those things. Some will be exclusive, some will be not. It really just depends on the original inventor and kind of what their process is. So each one will be just a little bit different, although we will have access to that IP to really protect
But
us in
all
this
together,
space.
it will make one patentable
It will make,
system.
yes.
Are you going to patent that?
Yes. And we do have some patent pending things written around that as well.
Operationally, what happens after the alert is sent out, typically?
The goal would be, it would go to some level of a rapid response team, like a code team in a hospital. Some group of nurses in that unit that would need to know if the patient's about to fall, because we can get up to a minute of early detection. That minute's really critical to get out to a team to help prevent that patient from falling.
Which is, I think, what needs to be validated, because the reason I asked the question is, would there be alert fatigue, eventually? And
Sure.
Has that been something that you?
My previous life, we spent a lot of time around alarm fatigue. And the idea here with this would be even less alarm fatigue. It would be more prescriptive and precise on exactly what's happening and what's occurring in the patient room. Things like, is the patient awake? Additional use cases, extubation, pulling your ventilator out on your own, seizures, you can detect from rapid eye blinks. Those are all things that we're going to be getting downstream from the NIH technology transfer, but stuff that we've built into the product already.
30 seconds. Okay, one more question. Do you want to take a question from Clubhouse, Alex? What's up? Do you want to take a question from Clubhouse? Do they have one?
They're asking, yeah.
Sure. You can turn the volume up on that and ask them down. Just ask, do you have a question? Right, say Clubhouse, do you have a question for me?
Clubhouse, do you have a question for me? It's going to be a little feedback.
Okay, any other questions? So much for the wonders of modern technology.
So does anyone on stage have a question for gentlemen? We had questions from the last person. I don't know. Alex, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Let's see, do I?
It's in the corner of the hospital.
Here. I have one in the back, but it's not fully functional. So this has several sensors in the device that allows us to get a variety of different things. There's a 4K wide angle camera, there's a see in the dark camera, and there's a LiDAR sensor. That allows us to see in this room under any lighting circumstance.
We do have a question.
So I think you're out of time. Thank you. Big round of applause for Brooks.
We do have a question from Clubhouse.
A couple people, moment things I think you have here, right? One, if you have a device, like a device, bring it. Always bring it, right? Two, practice your timing, right? Because you want to get through everything, right? You don't want to not be able to. 3, if you have a clubhouse event and you ask them for questions, you guys should ask a question. Anyway, they can't see my. So Tony Stearns, Dr. Tone is up. He also plays music too. But he is, he actually won our last live event. See, bring him product. He won our last live event, so he is actually here to give us an update. So he's really not in contest per se, but we like what he's doing and we'd like to be able to help him. And he's from Chicago, and he's going along with that. Perfect. Okay, so do you have your decks ready? You have your
it's
formats
ready.
ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So Patrick, I got your timer here. Okay.
Hi, I'm Anthony Stearns. I'm the founder and CEO of IRS Reminder. We're moving mental health patients from crisis to control. Patients are disengaging at about a 25% rate from mental health agencies today. It's not a small number. It's 4.8 million individuals. And this frustrates staff, and their turnover rate at mental health agencies is around 40% annually. And that leaves about 24 billion in lost revenue on the table. And on top of the crisis of getting less and less reimbursement for every activity they do almost every year. And we think that the core problem here is no remote monitor, only know what happened to the patient when they're in front of us. So this is my grandparents, and they lost their independence because they weren't able to manage their medication into their late 80s. And so I've seen the need for this technology personally. What IRX Reminder has developed is a simple, powerful solution built around an app and an Internet of Things pill dispenser that then plugs directly into an electronic health record at the agency, which can then trigger activities by the care team and increases reimbursement. So we get this triple win of helping the patient, pointing the staff where they're needed, and helping the agency's bottom line. The core of our technology is this pod, but really the innovation is introducing a dosing window. And when you enter the dosing window, you can take the pod, you grab it on top, place it in your hand, tilt it, and the pill comes out. Sorry, when they put me on an IBM, I always get a bad video. Can't be helped. When you take it on your own, you get no alert. It just shuts down and it's ready at the next dosing window. But when you're forgetting, that's when you get an alert, the second half of the dosing window. And you're reminded, and it's only when you're completely forgetting that you trigger an intervention from the care team. So you get that remote monitoring that's missing. The agency itself fills the pod, so they have an additional economic incentive to adopt. The method's far safer for patients because the medication's always contained. And the situational smart alerting has been proven in many studies in 22 of our research customers to move adherence from 48% to well over 80% with even with cognitively impaired patients. So our business model is you have a 4,000 person agency, they're going to earn about 21 million a year, but because of disengagement and staff turnover, they're losing about a third of that. But with our technology, they can do additional monthly med reviews. People show up with their therapy, they're now monitoring reimbursements and then additional interventions as they intervene. And so you make about 10 million extra from about 20% of the agency using our technology. So that's 10 more million to help more people, a 40% net increase. What makes this difference is being plugged directly into the electronic health record, in addition to our patented device and methodology. And I can talk about the comparisons, I'm sure I'll get asked. So it's an $8.6 billion market, bottom-up estimate. And if we take the 20% of agencies we can plug into today, it's a 350 million market today. But we're working, we started with NIH I-Core in 2018 with mental health. We used our SBR money to complete that. We actually got issued the patent 3 days after we won the American Medical Informatics Association Award that MedStarter ran in Washington, D.C. Then we ran into COVID. But since that time, we've been able to do 4 cloud-only demos, and we're now signed up with an agency to begin a full beta, including the pharmacy integration, while we also need to complete our FDA Class 2 clearance, and we'll be ready for commercial launch
What those betas will prove is pharmacy integration, staff response times, and prove our reimbursement metrics. But we have high confidence all that's going to happen. Yeah, that's fine. This is my team. We're looking to build, carry out those demos and build our inventory. And I hope you'll join me in moving patients from crisis to control to achieve and maintain independence.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Slightly less than 4 minutes for Q&A. Questions? Right.
I do have a question. As a patient advocate, where does the patient fall in the midst of using that tool for them?
They, at therapy, they work with their therapist to learn how to use the device relatively quickly. It just takes a few minutes. They take that home, put the charging stand in their home, and they're in total control of taking the medication. So what we find is as you get fewer, more meaningful alerts, as you get better at taking your pod, taking your meds, you just get alerted very infrequently when you're forgetting. And then if you're making a decision to get off your medications, if you're a bipolar patient or something like that, then we can set that as a high priority to contact that person and help have a discussion about why they want to get off their meds.
Why not? Can I ask
Yeah.
a really dumb question?
Sure.
What's the agency in this context?
The agency is the mental health agency.
Sorry, Senator, do you?
Have you done research on that particular form factor that you've got?
Yeah, we have.
I couldn't figure it out, but that's because
That's
they
the
trained on it. But users like it, patients like it.
Yes, once they again, you need about a minute and a half of training, which a little bit of practice, and then everything's very, very normal. It's like once you understand that it's like using a computer mouse, it all comes together.
How do the dosing differences, like if they want to titrate the dose of the patient, then they're taken back, how can we refill?
Right, so it's a smart pill bottle in effect, so it's a 30 or 90-day supply, and it's filled by the pharmacist. I call it a cognitive prosthetic, so if the light's on, basically you can take it, but this particular one's opaque, but you could see the medications and know what you're taking.
Can it hold multiple medications?
So each pod is designed for one medication, one type of medication up to a 90-day supply. And then we hook them together next to each other like you would the 5 pills bottles that you'd have otherwise. So now you just can't overdose on them, and we have remote monitoring, but you're making a behavioral decision to take them every day. It turns out that unlike a temple of pills or text reminding that's yelling at you every day to take your pills, this puts you in total control, and you always feel and encourage a positive behavior. So it has a totally different vibe.
I understand the use in opioid, but what about beyond opioid? What are your thoughts on?
Oh, no, it's intended for critical meds. We're using the study we want to do next is with Latuda. Opioids is another case, so we can give them more than a 3-day supply. This version isn't locked, but we have a locked design for opioids specifically.
How do you think through competition? I know you mentioned you're going to get asked, but I'll.
Yeah. So one of the things is that we're far more portable and flexible because we can use one pod or many. You can place them at different places in the home. We're tied directly into the EHR. Our whole model is selling to an agency. It's not a consumer product. So we're in a relationship to help people take critical meds over the long term.
Another dumb question. I mean, so you're going through the agencies, you used to research stuff. Why aren't you going to Walgreens? Yeah, I mean, why isn't this just like every pill should be dispensed like this?
Because I think in the long run, that is the model. But the win for an agency is really powerful, helping the patient.
As well as the revenue increase.
Yeah, we get a 5-factor return on investment for the agency that wouldn't be present for Walgreens. They just get the fill. Though Walgreens could use that big box of pharmacists they have for their specialty pharmacy to have those conversations with patients to convince them to stay on on their bipolar medication.
Sorry, I'm going to miss that. Michael, how much you charge per patient?
We're
$10 a month plus the cost of pod.
But they're earning activities that are equivalent to 5 to 8 times that.
That's fine. Great job. Fill out your forms or your online thing, that would be great. Get the next speaker queued up. You guys having fun? This is interesting, right? Some good startups. I know it's 4 and 4, which is really not that much time, but with 7 companies, yeah, it's good. If you guys want to, anybody's going to take a break before you guys want. Yeah, it's a pretty small group, so. Also, I want to thank you all for coming out. It shows bravery, because obviously not all of us are ready to go out and COVID yet. Okay, so we should be at our 4th company, right? So every place around labs, a last minute applicant, which I thought was very interesting. So thank you for coming out. And Tom, are you ready?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining.
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Claire. I'm the COO and co-founder of Every Place Labs. We're developing a self-service diagnostic kiosk that brings reliable, rapid diagnostic tests and to patients in community settings. We're currently a company in residence at Fogarty Innovation, which is a medical device incubator affiliated with Stanford Biodesign. So as we heard earlier, there's been this tremendous shift away from traditional healthcare settings to telehealth over the course of the pandemic. But due to limited access to rapid testing during telehealth visits, most patients are still choosing in-person outpatient care for visits that require diagnostic testing. So our vision at Every Place is to bring rapid diagnostic tests to wherever patients are, and we're starting with the workplace. So our initial offering is focused on influenza and SARS-CoV-2 testing for the post-pandemic workplace. We are hoping to help employers reduce transmission as well as absenteeism associated with respiratory illness and help identify any unexpected cases of COVID-19. For our target market of large self-insured employers, that's a $1.2 billion serviceable addressable opportunity for us that we're really excited to get started with. So our solution is a self-service kiosk that is designed for simple patient-initiated testing. We enable high clinical reliability by automating manual steps that are performed by healthcare workers today in traditional settings. So this technology will enable on-demand diagnostics so that more patients use cost-effective virtual care for visits that require diagnostic testing. So how does this work? Meet Sue. She's an essential manufacturing plant worker who's feeling sick at work. Sue would fill out an online screening and triage tool using her phone. And based on her symptoms, an Every Place lab test would be ordered. At that point, Sue would be directed to an Every Place equipped office or wellness room in the worksite, where she will check in at the kiosk. Based on the test that is ordered, the kiosk would dispense a self-testing kit. She would be instructed to collect a sample, in this case, a nasal sample. She would place the sample back into the kiosk, and then at that point, she can leave and expect to receive results in 15 minutes. So once the results are available, they're sent both to Sue as well as a remote provider. In this case, Sue has tested positive for the flu. So the remote provider will contact Sue proactively, in this case, prescribing Tamiflu, which is an antiviral medication. She takes the antiviral, and because of the early intervention, she's able to quickly recover and get back to work 1 day sooner than she otherwise would have been able to. So for the employer, what we're really looking to do is reduce healthcare costs and absenteeism. So we're able to generate about $200 in healthcare cost savings by automating the diagnostic testing and also by shifting patients to lower cost virtual care settings. And we're also able to expedite recovery and reduce absenteeism by enabling that early diagnosis and treatment. We are able to turn any location into a point of care lab, so there's no capital equipment cost to the employer. We charge a 50 cents per employee per month fee, up to $3,000 a year, and a per test fee of $40 per test.
And that membership covers access to the kiosk, integration with a preferred remote provider, whether that's an employer health provider or a telehealth provider. And we're able to kind of automate everything else like test replenishment and kiosk maintenance. So our platform, we're starting with these 2 respiratory tests, but ultimately we're hoping to expand to a broader range of tests, including drug testing, other routine acute clinical tests, as well as chronic disease screening and monitoring. And really this platform can be implemented in a wide range of settings beyond the workplace. This could include pharmacy settings, retail settings, convenience stores, even homeless shelters where there may be access to care today, issues today.
That's fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
What exact test are you doing? And
Yeah.
And what equipment is inside the kiosk?
Yeah, so we're running antigen tests.
So the kit that this one goes in, everything's in it or something?
Exactly. So today, the point of care antigen test is essentially a test strip. So you collect your sample, you place it in a vial, you have to squeeze it and apply reagents, and then you place it onto the test strip and then you wait. So we automate essentially that entire processing step. So all the patient has to do is swab themselves and place it into the cartridge.
And you're sourcing that test from where?
Yeah, so we're going to be sourcing it from existing test strip manufacturers that have already developed antigen tests. There are a number of them that have not yet received emergency use authorization in the US that are looking for essentially a path to market. So we'd be working with an existing test strip manufacturer.
So you guys build all the robotics and all the stuff to do all the manual process?
Exactly, yeah. So we have completed an alpha prototype where we've demonstrated comparable accuracy to the BD Veritor antigen device. And our beta kiosk will be complete later this quarter. We'll be doing a pilot with an employer partner later this year.
I do have a question. That is going to be at an employee site where the employer, it's going to be at an employer site where the employee can use it. What tests or what testing have you done or surveys have you done to test HIPAA? Because that is going to be information that will be at their employer. A lot of employees will actually not, there's a possibility that a lot of employees won't use the test because they're afraid that their employer may get information that they will not have. So how does HIPAA work into, how have you worked HIPAA into ensuring that the patient is their information is not actually?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, employers brought that up when we spoke to them. So in order for the patient to share the information with the employer, they will have to opt in. So without opting in, the patient will have the information themselves. It will only be sent to the remote provider for treatment purposes. We do, however, aggregate data at an anonymized level so that employers will be able to see, whether there's an influx of positive cases, but that will be anonymized data.
Right, but that's for the employer, and I'm talking about the employee, where they have the option to be able to use that. How is their HIPAA going to be protected?
Yeah, so the employee opts in to share the information, otherwise that information is not shared with the employer. Mm-hmm.
Who's cleaning the station? You don't mind me asking.
Yeah, so there's essentially an automatic within the device. Once the waste is generated, our device actually converts any type of regulated medical waste into normal municipal waste. So any janitorial staff would be able to remove the trash can from the device and dispose of it. No extra janitorial services would need to be hired for this.
What is the capacity of the system? Like how frequently do you need to replenish?
Yeah, so it really depends on the utilization and the type of program that the employer has. If you're just using it for basically symptomatic cases as employees select to use it, then it would be automatically replenished based on the rate in which it's the tests are being performed. So we would actually proactively ship out test strips based on the rate of usage. If an employer has implemented a broad screening program where employees are regularly screened, then we would automatically know to replenish it more frequently.
And it's just shipped to them and they know
exactly
how to replenish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
I'm wondering if you have stats on
the accuracy of the test that is self-administered versus being administered by healthcare providers. I mean, I've had a COVID test before, and I feel like it was a brain biopsy almost. They're jamming it up there, and I can't imagine doing that on my own.
Yeah, so there are actually two types of COVID swabs that you can do: a nasal pharyngeal swab, which is kind of painful one that goes over that, and a nasal swab, which is I think the more prevalent one that is used for self-testing. So self-testing has proven to be just as accurate in terms of getting a sample that's usable for the test. We're able to reduce some of the user errors around preparing the test strip because we're automating that process. So ours are going to be a little bit more, it's going to reduce the user errors that could be associated with, for example, home testing that would be done today.
Great, that's time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bud. All right. So that's very interesting. It really just shows how little time 4 minutes is. So I will encourage folks to try to get their talks done in 4 minutes. So you do have enough time for Q&A, and definitely audience questions are always welcome. So thank you. Those are all the questions. Yes, the same way. And actually, the first one I did came out negative, and because they let me do it myself, and I had no idea how far it was. Okay, so here's from Pennsylvania, is that right? Yeah. Here's as bad as us. Anyway, so go back there. I have to give them the clicker. No, I don't really want to do it for you. So next up is Open Solution, another last minute entrant, long distance driver. Everybody ready for this? You guys weren't ready for a break? We got 2 more, right? After this, we got 2 more. Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling? Up to you guys. Okay, so it's not like we've got great tricks out there anyway. So I would also like to say special thanks to DePaul University for hosting us tonight. And also, if you win tonight, you get one of these wonderful snow globes. In addition to our attention from our due diligence team, who actually the leader of that is out here in the audience, Shad Mishra. He's a fellow crazy person doing a startup venture fund with no idea what we're doing, but we're doing okay. So she also works for some big companies as a day job and some other venture funds. So anyway, so Peter, you want to see how this works?
Okay. Try to stay behind the podium because there are people listening from here. This thing is supposed to be recording. And it does.
Well, we're recording 6 other ways, so we're good. So yes, take it away.
Okay, my name is Peter Kinep, and I represent Open Solution company. We use for this particular reason. Now, I take from point Patrick's end, talking about CMS and effort to centralize or to move data in hands of regular public, patients. We sincerely believe, for many reasons, more than one, that decentralization of this data, moving this data from places where we have right now to the hands of consumer is most expected event. It will happen. Sooner or later it will happen. And that's what it means. It means that patients or regular people will use data for this particular reason. However, when CMS issue this request, question would be what kind of device, what kind of mechanism, system would be used to store this data in hands of people, in hands of public. Now, a few years back, we built a system, information system, kind of system for many reasons, for many applications, but effectively a system which allow you to build and to develop and to make your presence on internet good enough, and it will be done what we call right now no code development. So effectively, if you have data, give us data that we just crack our engine, and you will receive complete set of elements, software elements, like not physical or logical it would be, and application specific kind. In this particular case, application for maintaining electronic health records. The fact is that it's not only electronic health record needs to be maintained in centralized or decentralized fashion, but many others. In presentation, you will see it looks like it will take longer than 4 minutes for me to present this case, but how system looks like, this is result what we achieve, business use case, what you achieve with when you will move data in hands of consumer. And obviously, in this approach, everybody will be beneficial. It will be good for payers, it will be good for healthcare providers, for patients, and medical data providers. Medical data providers would probably suffer a bit because data would be in hands of patients, in hands of public. Now, construction technology, how the sync, because CMS issue request, but how it will be practical implementation, it's left behind, and nobody give answer. Years back, as I said, we developed system of this kind. In this system, you will see stack of all components, what needs to be presented, even in hands of every single member, every single patient, every single person. So, that's sorry about that.
So you didn't really get through a lot of your stuff.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
This is it's kind of big stuff. And what it, effectively I try to say, I'm taking as a question. I worked quite a few years in healthcare. I have some knowledge, in some places fundamental knowledge. So to produce the system, to make EHR effective and useful, as we hope needs to be done, many questions has to be resolved. Like for instance, clinical data exchange, part of EHR, of course. How to do that? And in many places, it's done in many different ways. People try to use SNOMED, CT, and other Leonics, but this is not regulated, is not, and no interest to the business to do anything. The only interest is government, CMS. Without government, without CMS involvement, it would be very difficult to move this thing around. But good thing is not necessarily good, but good thing is like we know what needs to be done. We identified all technologies. Sorry.
Is there a product there?
Yes, this product.
Okay. Do you have customers?
No.
Who would be your customer?
HIE, Health Information Exchanges. It would be based on ideas. Yeah. Yes, we have very good layout. Currently, we do have HIE organization, we do have insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shields, aligned with specific.
So how are your conversations with customers?
Well, it's going on. It's no practical. Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, so there are established standards for healthcare and
Of course.
right? Like HL7 fire.
No, but HL7 fire, okay. First of all, yes, it does. I apologize for interruption. But the point is to move from HL7 to fire. It's not necessarily very simple thing. And not I work in few.
I totally agree with that statement, but what is yours
What is
doing that's
different,
different and better?
than someone else who's implementing it?
Well, because we know how to do that. This is probably the only rational answer. We know what elements needs to be in place. We know how to put this thing together. We simply need some support and coalition, organization who will do this thing, who will participate in this thing. Without this stuff, we don't.
What I'm trying to understand is that what problem in that entire, there are multiple problems.
Multiple
you described,
problems.
right? So what is the one that you're trying to focus on and trying to address?
All of them.
But what,
because
can you articulate some
because
example?
to attract and to prove the point, we have to touch all components, all structural elements of this solution. We need to think about what kind of standards, HL7, fire, what interoperability, what clinical data exchange. All this stuff is still solved in many places in different ways. HIE failed. Let's see this in this.
Okay, thank you, Peter. That was interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I'm sorry. You know, when we review the, I thought there's more on our part. Sorry about that. So our next up, and please, if you're using electronic form, you can't skip one. You have to fill it out. But the paper is nice and easy. So, next up is Dalwatech. Your flying mouse is here, and you brought a product to show off.
I did.
Look at that, that's awesome. Okay, so Clubhouse is listening here. This is your clicker here.
Got it.
And the timer's over there, I'll tell you, try to get it within 4 minutes. Want to plug that in something? It's way over, there's a plug way over here.
This is prototype number 2.
Prototype number 2, very cool.
Yes.
Okay, so this doesn't count as 4 minutes yet. So, when he starts talking,
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Isaac Chadri. I am co-founder and CEO of Dalwatech. Now, I want you to imagine something real quick for me. Imagine if you could diagnose any disease, any bacterial, viral, or cancerous disease immediately. I'm going to reset myself real quick. It's okay. All right. All right. Imagine if you could immediately diagnose any disease, any cancerous, bacterial, or viral disease across geographies within 5 minutes without the need to add any new expensive hardware or require any specific training. But all you then need to do this is instead have over-the-air updates to already an existing device like this. This will change the paradigm of how diseases are currently diagnosed and how future diseases will be added to healthcare systems. This is what Dalwatech will do. Dalwatech has roots in Kenya, as the name is Swahili for medical technologies, and it's where my aunt died in Kenya, died in 2013 due to a lack of access to technologies. At the time, there were only 2 MRIs present in that country, and that pissed me off because I currently live in Oak Park and I can walk 4 blocks to get an MRI if I really wanted to. This made it so that my brother and I started Dalwatech so that no one else suffers due to a lack of access to technology the same way my family did. So, the problem that we're trying to now tackle with this is the time it takes to diagnose diseases. Right now, it takes about 2 to 8 days to diagnose most diseases. And in that time frame, the physician is going to do one of 2 things. First, they'll either overprescribe some medicine, or two, they'll do nothing, both of which increase the treatment costs, both which increase the chance of malpractice for the physician, and results in worse health outcomes for the patient. So our solution to this is a device. That's version 1. This one is version 2, trying to make it more sleek and more. Once it loads the screen up. Our device is to have a portable point-of-care device that physicians can use to diagnose disease within 5 minutes. This does several things. First off, because you're getting diagnosed at an earlier time, this decreases the treatment cost and improves health outcomes. It decreases the chance of malpractice, and the physician actually gets to make money administering these tests versus paying an outside lab to actually run these same tests. The way this works is very simple. It's a laser paired with machine learning. The laser is able to scan a sample. So this is a little vial that has our reagent into it. You just put saliva into here. Sorry. You put saliva into here, and then the laser is able to get the chemical signature. And then our machine learning algorithm is able to diagnose diseases using that same chemical signature. And you can do different diseases all at the same time. This allows us to have subscription-based business model where we will charge a monthly fee to get updates on current diseases and for updates on new diseases that we add to the platform over time. And the first disease we're going to deal with is COVID-19 strain differentiation, which we're going to actually do an IRB study to test for all the 4 different strains that are currently active right now. So far, we have done $37,000 in friends and family. We have completed 2 proof of concepts where we can detect bacteria and saliva within saliva, so in saliva with 90% accuracy. And right now, we're planning to do an IRB study, and we're raising money for that so that we can show the FDA that this can be used in a clinical setting, and then help us get insurers to purchase this, which can then execute on our letter of intent that we just got from a Chicago clinic.
Make sure you tell people that how the run this
Oh, I was going to say that for questions since I didn't have time for this. But simply, you use a laser, and the laser excites a molecule, which sends it to vibrate like this. Our machine detects that vibration, and then we use the machine learning algorithm to say, hey, that vibration at this frequency, that means this disease. Or if it's at another frequency, because each cell will have a different frequency based on what's outside of it, then we can pick and choose whichever frequency we want to detect, and that represents what the actual disease will be.
Great, now it's time, Isaac. Great job.
All right.
So, I'll just try it. One at a time. Ladies first.
Sorry.
Yes.
Can you talk more about the validation level of each of the testing?
Of course. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so right now, when we tested for, we did 2 tests, right? The first test was a test for lactobacillus kefir, and we put that in saliva. We did that because we don't have a lab, and I needed some way to detect for some bacteria, so we chose that, and we're able to detect that with 95.7 specificity and 93.8 sensitivity.
Actually, sure, go find Kyle. This doesn't count. Oh, you're gonna dance to it?
Always.
So, no, tell them about why. I mean, Promise Productions been around forever.
Right. Well, I can talk over that. That's not a problem. We can still work. Don't worry.
Should we do lead? I'm not sure.
Okay, so apparently it's a fire drill. Maybe we'll be back. Maybe we won't.
It's Stardom, so.
see you in person. Oh, Tony. Is this your laptop? I'll burn it with you.
What?
All right, so we're out.
Come back later.
DC guy. He's also the CEO of this company.
Hey, Patrick,
So that was the discussion.
you are
That's good news, because I
frozen
know
there.
T's very passionate about rural, and I know quite a few of you all, Dale, including Kimberly, is sharing the passion in that space. So that looks like there's a breakthrough there, Dale, from what you're sharing.
Hey, Angelique. Or Kimberly, can you guys hear that live stream now or no?
No, I saw you. You look.
Majority of times they'll just forget the live and just say, we'll just have an office.
Gotcha.
If you have subscription,
All right.
this
I can
fits
see you
very
now.
well into them to say, okay, at least now off the bat, we can start off with this. And especially
Can I
the direct
get
primary care clinics, as our
volume
subset
on?
of the clinics we're looking for.
I need the
A,
volume.
subscription business model, so that fits with us. And two, they don't use insurance, which helps for us for easier adoption.
To coordinate.
Questions? No? Okay. So if you will take a moment to fill out.
All right, Dale, we're coming back. We're back.
Are you able to hear them or no?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Especially impressed with your.
Thanks you guys for helping.
Everybody's, I mean, I don't think anybody left, which is amazing, through the fire drill. So that's the first time this happens, our 214th event and live event, and it has never happened before. And I'm just depressed that we're all still here. So fantastic job, Isaac, really good job. Pitching in alleyways, pitching on the street, in front of fire trucks, all along the way, and back up here again. So got a little bit of extra time, but I think it's okay. Okay, so now I believe we have our final pitch, right? I got a little disoriented as well, right? Jessica Sharp, who has been here. Actually, no, you have not pitched on stage before, but you did really well in Clubhouse. So she actually has her device, good entrepreneur. And she's gonna get 4 minutes to talk about it. So do you want to people to pass around the device? Or, do you want me to bring around people? Can I help you?
Where would I talk to?
You're gonna talk to the
I'll talk
device? Okay.
I'll talk.
Okay.
And then
Does it talk
afterwards,
back?
during networking,
I see.
I'd like to show you the inside.
Okay, well, let's see. Alrighty then. Patrick, she's got 4 minutes when she's ready. Is this working?
Yep.
Okay. Hello, world.
Hello, world. Hi, I'm Jessica Busser. I'm a lifelong technologist, an emergency room nurse, and the founder of Wave Therapeutics. Our suite of smart cushioning devices prevents bed sores, saves lives, and reduces a substantial healthcare expense. So each year, bed sores kill over 60,000 Americans, and they impact the lives of 3 million more. They cost the US economy over almost $11 billion. Regulators say that bed sores are caused by neglect, and facilities need to pay for treatment at an average cost of $44,000 per incident. These wounds are also the second leading reason for malpractice suits. Facilities lose those cases 87% of the time for average damages of $250,000. Our therapeutic wheelchair cushion combines multiple clinically proven therapies with powerful analytics, making Wave the most effective bed sore prevention solution available. After launch, we'll expand our offerings to include full mattress toppers and items for the surgical suite. Next, we'll offer products for the automotive, airline, and consumer markets. Competitive products fall into two categories. First are simple static pads made of foam, gel, or air. They're really not much different than the cushion you're sitting on right now. The current market leader, RoHo, makes this type of device. At the higher end are more expensive automated cushions that basically teeter-totter underneath the user. Aquila is the current leader in this space with their $4,000 Air Pulse cushion. It's basically a memory foam pad with some air bladders in it connected to a control box by tubes and wires. It's really bulky and a pain to deal with. Wave's cushion is more effective than anything on the market, and our affordable price allows healthcare facilities to achieve a quick ROI and literally save billions of dollars in liability and treatment costs. Before healthcare, my first career was in global information technology, where I led European business consulting efforts for one of the largest tech companies in the world. For Wave, I've assembled the team of experienced and capable business leaders required to ensure our long-term success. Wave is owned by a woman, and our board and C-suite is made up of women, first-generation immigrants, and members of the LGBT community. We've created 8 generations of prototypes, built out our manufacturing platform, signed a major contract with the Veterans Health Administration, and shipped our first devices to their researchers and reviewers. Our SOM of 38 million comes from the VHA. Our SAM of 500 million comes from all US long-term care facilities. Finally, our domestic TAM of 2.5 billion comes from all the wheelchair users in the United States. We filed our IP in the United States, in Canada, the UK, and the EU, and we've got a placeholder for the rest of the world. We're planning on, as soon as we've established ourselves in the US market, moving abroad. Wave is currently raising a $2 million seed round that will allow us to accelerate our MVP route to market, invest in the R&D of our follow-on products, and pay for critical operating expenses. By initially focusing on the VHA, Wave expects to profitably sell 10,000 units within our first year. Thank you for your interest. There's my contact information, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you have a VHA contract?
Yeah, we do. We signed a CRADA with the VHA back in January. It gives us access to their world-class researchers on wound care and pressure ulcer prevention. It makes us a preferred vendor with the federal government, and they put money on the table to pay for our compliance testing as well as our first round of clinical studies. Now, to that last point, we're a class 1 exempt product. We don't need clinicals to go to market. All we need is the compliance testing and then to register with the FDA.
Just gonna ask, and so part of what you're getting the money for is to prove out that it works relative to the other existing therapies.
So actually, we're in a really interesting position here because we're based around 2 existing clinical therapies, alternating pressure and sequential compression. Both of these have been extensively tested and validated. So quite frankly, we're just doing it to be able to brag even more. Also, we've got a strategy ahead of us that once we get those clinical tests in place, we're going to advocate to the FDA that they reclassify us as a class 2 non-exempt product, which will let us get an even greater reimbursable rate, as well as put a substantial barrier to entry for any follow-on products.
Can you tell us how the product works?
Yeah. So right now, the alternating pressure devices on the market have 2 zones of pressure. Our cushion has 6 zones of pressure, interleaved from front to back, creating a peristaltic pumping action that not only changes up pressure points under the users, but promotes return blood flow from the lower extremities back to the heart and lungs for reoxygenation. Now, in addition, every one of our cushions has a full Linux single board computer built into it with sensors, communication capabilities, and analytics. With our Rev 2 of this product, we'll be able to do predictive analysis on tissue health before problems are even visible to a clinician's eyes, and then proactively change our operation to address that danger condition.
You mentioned this earlier. Where is this getting manufactured?
Everything is being done domestically. In fact, everything is being done in the state of Indiana. And this is great because it gives me better access to quality control. Plus, I've got so many advocates within state government and state agencies that want to see us bring these valuable federal contracts back to the US, back to Indiana.
And let's talk me through the supply chain aspect of it, how you manage that and what the issues.
So from the manufacturing standpoint, we've got 3 vendors that will do various sub-assemblies. Those sub-assemblies will arrive at one of the vendors for final assembly, packaging, and fulfillment. So I don't need to create that. And that vendor also is a well-established medical device company with a QMS facility in place. So it's more things I don't have to build myself. From there, we're going to sell 75% of our B2B sales through distribution. We're going to leave the smaller conglomerates and the mid-sized conglomerates to distribution. And that'll allow Wave to cherry pick the largest of the conglomerates for our own inside sales efforts. So what we can do in 30 sales calls, we'll take the distributor 1,000 sales calls to achieve that same kind of benefit. For our B2C efforts, we'll go through DME providers and our own e-commerce sites.
Time for one last question, if anybody has it. Anybody?
Give me a heart
up there. Thank you so much. I love this program.
I do too.
Just could you please explain about CPT codes and how it will be reimbursed?
Yeah, so we're going to go to market using the existing HCPCS codes for wheelchair cushion products. We're going to use the same codes that the RoHo cushion currently uses right now. So there's not going to be any substantial change or re-education until we've advocated to the FDA to reclassify us. But by that time, we'll be well established in the market. And we'll have that momentum and it'll be a lot easier to do the re-education. I'll also point out that the VHA is the largest healthcare provider in the United States. And with their buy-in of our product, it's going to make it much easier for us to get buy-in from the other larger facilities.
Where's the call to build and sell?
Yeah, so our SRP is going to initially be $450, and our COGS, when we get to our production quantities, will be $150. So part of this raise will allow me to buy the automation equipment I need to get my production numbers up and my COGS down.
Can you sell it to truck driver without what?
Yeah. Yep. As well as commuters, frequent flyers, office workers, call center folks. Actually, in a couple of days, I have a call with JetBlue. They're interiors folks. So.
Great. Okay.
Would like to see more.
So the outside. Okay, so that ends the pitch portion of the night. So if you guys will go through all of your papers or your online, you guys are all done. Okay, everybody's all done. Okay, so if anybody use papers, just raise your hand if you use papers, and Tony will come around and get them. So keep your hands up or raise your papers up. Monta will finish up. So we're gonna do some data entry. Normally we would do a networking break now. There's some back there. Anyway, so normally we would do a networking break, but since we have to be out of here at 9:30, like they're gonna lock us out. That's happened once already tonight. You think we get a little extra time? And Brad's gotta go at 9. I was thinking maybe that we would just go straight to the future of healthcare in COVID panel. Or you guys want to break?
Are we going to be able to network it when we're drinking?
I think we have to go to a bar for that, to be honest.
Let's do it.
Anyway, so, but yeah, so I figured maybe half an hour panel. That's good, right? It's like 8:30 now.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of the panelists, so that's all of you guys. You guys should all sort of get in a place that I can get you all on one camera. So yeah, all it is here, and you guys are all done with these things, right? Okay. Okay, so. Okay, so anybody else have more things to turn in? More papers? Still reviewing?
No.
Okay. So. And this will be different. Okay, so if you guys want to have a conversation, Sharad, you guys can go out there. So I was hoping you guys would have some interesting thoughts on the topics of what are we going to do next in terms of healthcare innovation. I think this event was a bit of an experiment for us. So from my perspective, I'm not sure events are going to come back the same way. What do you guys think? Anyone?
I think you're right.
I mean, the fire drill, was definitely something. I don't know, but let's just take each of your areas of expertise, right? So, Sandra, do you think the patient experience has changed much post-COVID? Or anything?
Actually, I actually think that the patient experience has changed somewhat. We're really not in post-COVID yet, but from the time that COVID first happened in the United States, the patient experience with innovation has changed. And as we keep these new technologies, especially the technologies that we've talked about this evening, as well as Black & Decker just released some innovative tools for seniors. I think it's going to change more, even more for the patient, and I think that will be a good thing.
Absolutely. Patrick, you helped Tony with doing the data. He's a news. Sorry, my hands was apparently completely unclear to everybody except you. I was trying to get you to get Patrick to say, I thought that's pretty clear. No? Okay, so everyone comfortable? Sorry, I was kind of.
I think it's absolutely correct, right? I mean, the world has changed significantly, and we can see a lot very different patient experience post this pandemic.
The back end.
I don't think we can go back to where it was. It won't be totally complete lockdown the way we're looking at it. We can have some hybrid kind of process. So.
And I think that's great, because I think right now what we have, unlike the past pandemics, the past epidemics that we have, we now have we now have the medical field, we now have the scientific field, we now have politicians all pushing to make sure that the patient knows that they are the drivers of their own healthcare, and all encouraging them to ask different questions, ask for resources that they need. This was something that this is new, and it's a good news.
Yeah, I agree with that more. And nobody liked the way it was running before anyway, right? I mean, yeah, maybe the incumbents did. So speaking of which, so how is this going to change things for the incumbents, Brett?
Well, I guess what I'd say is I think that the impacts of the pandemic in terms of the explosion of digital health tools and increased use of telemedicine and specialty niche providers, I think has been great and generally good for consumers. But I think that the more impactful change is that those legacy institutional providers have rapidly accelerated their adoption of these technologies as well. So I think it's all cool about Bongo, Teladoc, and all that sort of stuff, but they're really testable part of what happens in healthcare today. What I think is real dramatic change. I've been a patient at Northwestern forever. I've never had a telemedicine visit. That's all. That's what I had. I just messed up my shoulder, lifting weights, did PT. That never would have happened, a year and a half ago, and that's happened across the country. So I think that change, where these ways of interacting with traditional parts of the healthcare industry for patients has gotten more accessible and easier, is really a profound, really important change. More important, I think, than a lot of other things.
You don't think that it's just going to bounce back? I mean, the hospitals, the institutions, they're just going to want to go back. I mean,
Well, it only matters. They're not going to want to do that unless they get paid $1 less for doing something online than they do for doing something in person. So if we're able to maintain payment parity for these visits and figure out how to deal with the fraud issues, which I think are significant, I think it's here to stay. I'll tell you one quick story about my PT, not to share too much, but I messed up my shoulder. I had PT. I was home. My physical therapist was home. So I got my bill, which is great. And I got another bill. Guess what that other bill was?
Facility charge.
Facility charge. Well, but and actually, because I'm kind of a jerk sometimes, I asked my physical therapist why I got a facility charge, and she's like, but someone still has to pay for the facility, right? And the facility is not going to go away, but it is ridiculous that there was no use of a facility, but I still got charged. I paid it, but it's
as long as the facility still exists, they're going to want to make charges, but it doesn't mean that they earned it. Right, like when I had an endocrinology visit, it was 7 minutes on a Zoom call. Yeah, it was more convenient for me. Yes, she didn't have to get out of her pajamas either, but they still charged me my $65 copay, and then I'm sure they charge everything. So the cost of doing business goes way down, but the cost of care doesn't, right? So that can't stay like that. And so the payers are driving that, right, by pushing telemedicine and then paying telemedicine rates. So I think this is the crux of the issue for innovators and more digital health more broadly, is if payment
parity goes away, even though maybe it should, because telemedicine and other digital health tools are arguably cheaper to provide. I think that's going to take us way back and let the incumbents sort of be more dominant. Yeah, so it might be.
Well, Dr. Sarup, I mean, you do surgeries. I mean, that didn't really change, right? I mean, you can't do telesurgery.
You can't do telesurgery, but a lot of perioperative stuff, post-operative visits, et cetera, we can now do remotely. And it's things that we knew we could potentially do, but we weren't, pushing the envelope. So now we've been able to show that, we can do that, and we know when to have patients come in and when not to have patients come in, and how many times we can communicate with them over a telehealth visit and then have them come in. So I think that in that role and in that way, post-operative care is part of a global package, right? So it decreases actually significantly the time, effort, the location fees, et cetera, for hospitals, and it's much more convenient for the patient and the physician or the surgeon. And so I think that there are many different ways that it increases access to healthcare for our patient population, so that they don't have to drive in from, wherever they're driving from, right, from distances. And so, as you were saying about Northwestern, where I used to work, our patients came from all over. So it makes things much more convenient for the patients, and it gives us more time to take care of other patients who may need our direct attention.
But, okay, so let's say COVID is a flu going forward. You get a flu shot every year, some people die from it, whatever. It's just part of our existence, which is probably what's gonna happen, right? Are you gonna go back to the old way?
I don't think that there is the way to go back to the old way.
So it's gone.
I think so. I think that it's part of change that has to occur.
You getting hit now,
Again-
does everybody think that's true?
I have something to add there. I think you can almost draw a parallel between what's happening, what might happen in healthcare, with what you see with remote work and employers and employees. There was always, I think, a need to do a few things, and you can compare that with what telehealth was 5 years ago, but that's changed now. And to Dr. Swerve's point, I think everyone's exploring the boundaries of what you can do. Can we do more? Can we do less? And then also, what are the ground rules, right? Which goes back to what about reimbursement, or how do we, and I think that's what we need to explore in healthcare, just as you would explore in the corporate scene with remote work.
Well, that sounds like good news for patients, for doctors, for investors. I mean, that means that there's a huge number of opportunities. Whenever there's change, there's opportunity, right? So from the investor side of the table, do you guys want to weigh in on this one?
On the investment opportunity we see going forward?
Well, you talked about that in the beginning, but I mean, do you think the post-COVID world is going to have a huge impact on portfolio?
Oh, yeah,
opportunities?
absolutely. I mean, we've already started to see it across the portfolio. I think if we look at, year-over-year comparisons, the adoption and penetration rates of telemedicine are still much higher than they were pre-COVID, but there's going to be some natural tapering for patient visits that are more suitable for, an in-person tactile visit. What I will say is a lot of our portfolio companies have structured really innovative contracts with health plans, which I think is something we haven't talked quite a bit about yet. And so those contracts aren't going to disappear post-COVID, right? And so those health plans now have incentives to make sure that their health plan members are using either lower cost services, or in the case of many of our portfolio companies, value-based payment arrangements, which are going to be more, cost advantageous for them in a post-COVID world. So there'll be some natural tapering. But
Do you think COVID will have an effect on VBP?
I mean, I
I
hope so,
don't
but
see,
we're
I don't see
like,
a correlation there. Have you seen that actually happening?
So I would say a lot of the contracts we've seen are more value light. So thinking about how do you structure a capitated case rate model versus just a traditional fee-for-service model. So it's almost like a step in the right direction. But do I think that it will be an accelerant long-term? Yes, but we've seen over the past, 13 years, value-based care has been slower to adopt than we originally thought it was going to be. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, but I just wonder if it's like a, such a chaotic moment led to people adopting new ideas that had been sitting on the side burner, so to speak.
Yeah.
I thought it was just the opposite, to be honest. Not to start a fight. Yes.
So I actually have a somewhat contrarian position to the question of, has COVID changed the way things are going? I actually think it's far too early to tell. And I actually think that what we're doing about the workplace discussion is a perfect example of why it's too early. About 6 months ago, everyone was saying, we will never go back. They were getting out of their real estate positions. And all you're hearing now is you better get back to the office. And so I think that there's a rebound effect that I think we're gonna swing back a little bit close to. I think we'll have made changes and I think we'll have made advancements. I don't think though we're gonna experience a sea change here where all of a sudden the old way is gone and there's just a new way.
I'm sorry. Did you introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry, Chris Burns, like the Chief Strategy.
Chris Burns. Oh, Chris Burns, the guy we met on Clubhouse. Yeah, that Chris Burns. Good to see you here, Chris. And so, but speaking of Clubhouse, sorry, that was just a segue. So speaking of Clubhouse, this is our 214th event, as we said, the first time we've had a fire event. Since January 6th, we've done about 585 events on Clubhouse. We've probably engaged 50 times more people than we would have in 6 months. And we've seen about 70% more startups than we would have, some of whom we've met today. And I would say that for us, this room answers the question to some extent. The amount of promotion we did for this event normally would fill the room with twice as many people at least, probably 3 times. But we actually had more people watching us online, some that are actually here in Chicago, than actually came to the events. You got the stats on that? What? Sorry. I'm doing estimates from people who are from the room. Patrick probably is the real numbers. How you guys doing with the scoring? Do we have to go to like
It's he's working on the algorithm.
Okay, good.
It's machine learning.
How many sets of judging do you have?
18.
18, so that means 30 or so of you guys didn't judge. Actually, I guess. Anyway, so I had a question before, but if any of you guys have any questions or thoughts on this, let's co-moderate because I am not really a great moderator. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Because usually I've got so many other things to think about. I don't. But honestly, I didn't know anything well enough to say.
I'll ask a question. What is the biggest surprise that you didn't think or thought would happen or has not happened? I'm asking.
Yeah, yes, that.
Can you repeat, you said what is the biggest?
What surprise that you thought would happen and then has not happened or you didn't expect it and it happened?
I thought hydrochloroquine was gonna work.
I think on that one, leaching, I guess surprised me is I don't have vaccines.
I'm not. There's two things that stop vaccines from happening generally, right? The non-parallel nature of clinical trials and funding. Well, they broke both of those rules, so of course it would pass. And the mRNA delivery vehicle, the liposome, has been around for a while.
So if I asked you,
But I'm a scientist, I used to make sure that.
so if we asked you on March 15th that we would have an approved vaccine in people's arms in 9 months, you would have said yes.
I predicted like March, the following year. That's why I participated in a clinical trial using a very old technology, using the adenovirus vector. So that was nothing new. wasn't anything that was gonna change the purpose, I used to make things like that. But, so yeah, I mean, I'm surprised by the lack of adoptions. I think you've seen the anti-vaxxer movement get an enormous boost in the last 4.5 years. That's a political discussion. You know, so we actually went to an anti-vaxxer event, me and a bunch of necessary mentors. One of our investors is big on that. And he asked us to come and debate. And it was, you know, the very beginning of COVID. And it, you know, it's just amazing the lack of information, the pseudoscience, just it's and the people of the 40 people there, 35 of them bought into the book plan. I don't know what they're gonna do when they have to get vaccinated to go, you know, to the World Cup or whatever. Yeah, Steve, that's gonna happen. Wants to bring everybody to the World Cup this year. Somebody's gotta tell me this. You might be watching. Anyway, so yes, Jessica, you have a question?
I had a question for the panel about the telehealth discussion that we had earlier. I see a pro and a con to the telehealth question, and I'd like to get your commentary on it. So the con that I see is the quality of the healthcare services provided inferior to the quality of in-person care, because of so much of clinicals is, you know, putting your hands on somebody and hearing them and, you know, experiencing what's going on. That's the first question. And the second is there a positive? Because traditionally marginalized communities can get access to compassionate care that they might not otherwise. And the case that I'm referring to there is the new telehealth company called Plume that provides compassionate care to the transgender community across the nation and gives care to people in geographies that they wouldn't otherwise have it. So it's kind of like a pro and a con, and I'd love your thoughts on that.
To your first question, you know, step far, I think the answer that everyone gave right is depends. I think what's really interesting is for some conditions, we've actually seen telemedicine being a more efficacious way of delivering care. So one example, I'll pull on this portfolio company again, in OCD. When the patient is actually in the context of their home and they're able to have, you know, exposure therapy and experience some of their, you know, fears or anxieties in the context of their day-to-day life, the outcomes are actually superior. We've seen a lot of that in some of our pediatric telehealth solutions too, where they're leveraging family-based models where the parents and the siblings are all actually able to participate on video with the provider because it's just more seamless, right? They're in their home, they're living their day-to-day life. They're not, you know, confined in this new clinical environment. Certainly can't speak to the more, again, tactile engagements that you were referencing, but I think that's been a really interesting observation for us where in some cases telemedicine can actually be superior.
Cool. Thank you.
And I'd like to offer my opinion from a patient standpoint, a patient that actually represents the one of the marginalized communities, not all of them, but one of the marginalized communities. I believe that telehealth does have some advantages for that marginalized community, and that the patient, right now when a patient goes into the office and talks to a doctor, they don't ask all the questions that they should ask. So they tend to be quiet, they go home, and then it's like, I don't, you know, if you ask them what the doctor said, they have no clue because they're quiet and they don't know what the doctor is actually talking about. Well, a patient that's at home is more comfortable being at home, so they can ask those questions that need to be asked. They can ask them at home with relatively, you know, at ease because they're in the comforts of their home. The downside of that, though, is that there are a lot of people that are in the marginalized communities, and I'll take COVID for an example. A lot of marginalized community members they suffered COVID, but they suffered more from an underlying condition that wasn't caught. Telehealth is not going to help catch that. You have to actually see the patient in order to actually be able to know, okay, this is what's going on, because once again, you have to see the person and talk to the person to know. So there are some pros and cons to telehealth that can actually benefit or hurt the minority community.
Thank you so much.
So in my patient population, I can tell you, like post-operatively, there were most of the patients that I saw in quick patient care, like a post-appendectomy patient, right? Seeing someone takes maybe 2 to 3 minutes max. Patients are usually like, that's it? I'm like, yep, that's it. Just need to check this, and this, and give you your pathology and bye. You know what I mean? So it's a very quick visit versus other patients who, are doing their own wound care, et cetera. And it's a continued process. And what we learned is that if I'm able to see what you're seeing and examine your wound from picture or from, like live streaming it, right? And I can give you comfort that everything is going okay, and we don't have to see you and put you at risk every week or have you drive from your home from from a far distance, then it saves patients money, it saves them costs, et cetera. Now, if there's a problem, right, and it's not expressed appropriately, just like, Rachel was saying, it really does depend, right? Because if there's something that's lost in translation, then sometimes, you can have a little bit of an issue. I have one patient who's actually a physician whose wound was red, and he kept telling me that it wasn't red, and he would send me these like weirdly lit pictures, and he was like, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I was like, it looks a little, and so finally I sent him to the emergency department, and he actually did have an issue. But so there's everything has pros and cons to it. And what I wanted to make sure and say to what Chris had said is, I don't think that the whole world is going to change, but it's never going to go back to exactly how it was before, where everybody's going to be going back to work, where every single patient is going to be submitted. There'll probably be some mixture of telehealth use, and there'll be some remote work that's done, because we just can't go back to how it was, because now we know the possibilities that we can actually use. So, and I think I can probably see in mental health where, that the usage of telehealth could be very nice as well.
Thank you so much. We have we only have a few more minutes before a couple of the panelists have to leave, and then we just go to networking and people can ask questions directly. But we do have to be out of here by 9:30, so it's not going to go on that long, at least not here. So I don't think we've heard very much from Heather Walsh tonight. So Heather.
Alex?
Actually, this goes to all the people who are really involved in healthcare innovation. How has healthcare innovation changed from your perspective in terms of whether you're a very successful, well-known entrepreneur in healthcare innovation like Tom or ReOpen, who's started a company, and or from the number of applications you get and what you're seeing in your applications?
Yeah, I'll take the last one first because that one is a little bit easier. So we just opened applications. We don't have that many, it's been like a week, but the first ones we're getting are all sort of COVID related in terms of hand washing and sanitizing and mask technology and all of those kinds of things. So that's not exactly what we're looking for the accelerator, but that's what we're getting so far. What we're looking for on the accelerator side, I think, does align with some of the changes that we've seen during COVID. I like that term actually, because we keep not being able to do stuff I want to do, so we're definitely not post-COVID. But what we're looking for with our partners with Baxter and Edward Elmhurst is as people are seeing sort of some care happening in the home or telehealth or all of these things, because we're on the hardware side of things, we're not looking at platforms for telehealth or algorithms, but we're looking at what are the devices that actually support all of that. So this telehealth, the change to increase telehealth is supported by the fact that people have devices that provide data to physicians they didn't have before, right? And so we're seeing a lot of these monitors and sensors and even analyte sensing. We've seen some of these things today, getting data to support some of that care that you're getting in the home or getting outside of the clinic and even in the hospitals. And then secondarily, we don't want to just look at sort of how physicians are getting data, but how they're providing care as well. And so, during COVID, when hospitals were full of sick patients, and I was at Baxter when all of that started, and we saw, there's been a long movement toward people doing dialysis in their homes, but that was increased over that period of time because it was much safer for a lot of these very sick patients to stay in their homes. And you see a lot of, increased better outcomes coming from patients who are continually doing dialysis therapy every night in their homes, and it's more convenient for them. And so some of these things that we saw happening over many, many years was sort of speeded up a little bit. And so I think those were things that were started maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but that opens up the doors to what other things can you provide care with in home, and how much expertise does that really entail? You would think dialysis is a very complicated modality, but now that people are doing that in home, what other kind of care can they do at home? What expertise do you actually need to support that?
Yeah, those are all really interesting points. Too, I talked about how your hyperfine, has been rolling out through the pandemic. How's it affected you guys? I mean, I would say it's probably easier for you than most people, but.
Yeah, it also depends on how you think about
Thanks for
anything.
coming. We know.
Yeah.
Round of applause. Okay,
Yeah, I think it also things about how do you prepare all about. I mean, the reason we were prepared and we were able to accelerate the way we did was just the team that was initially put together and how they were thinking about progress and future of it. I mean, we were doing iterative development on hardware, right, which is typically not done that way. So, like, we were doing our pre-planning for COVID in second week of March, and really understanding our supply chain, understanding our remote working capabilities in a hardware manufacturing company, right? So where we need actually engineers touching magnets and things that they can't take home, right? Because it's not possible to do that stuff. So then that meant, can we get our facility clear wave so we can actually do point of care testing every morning when arrive? Can we do it in less than 15 minutes? So a lot of the planning in March happened, get PPEs in, get us ready for these kind of testing, and just be not to execute on it, but to understand and build a plan around it, so that if lockdown happens, we were ready to move forward with that. So we accelerated our R&D efforts by 6 months ahead of schedule, right? So, and because in end of March, I was getting calls from New York hospitals like, hey, we have 110 patient ICU, every single ventilator is being used. I don't know if the patient has stroke or what is going on. Can't take him down to MRI because I don't have a portable ventilator. The staff is not available to pump them. I need a scanner. Can you get a scanner tomorrow? And like, it's not approved by FDA yet, because we were still getting
That's
ready
a
for
great
that
story. So
process.
you used COVID to accelerate the adoption of your hyperfine.
Yeah, I mean, we launched it 6 months ahead. So we were supposed to launch at the ReOpen North America Conference here in Chicago in December of 2020.
Yeah.
And the first scanner was in the hospital in April. Right, so that was way ahead of schedule, right? And our FDA clearance happened in August. So we called FDA and they said, safe device, MR, no radiation, nothing. So didn't even say, forget, early authorization, just go. So we were delivering scanners in tri-state area hospitals to do this. So we even delivered, over the farthest we went was East Chicago, is the farthest we
So I
were
think
driving.
we've got new afros. They say luck favors the prepared mind, but bad luck favors the prepared entrepreneur.
I think that's the thing, the companies that survive crises like these, the companies survived 2008 financial crisis, companies survived this, those will excel and just grow in a rapid space and be able to do a lot of interesting things. So yeah, I mean, and that helped us prepare to go global. And I mean, the whole mission of Hyperfine was to build a point of care MRI scanner, which is mind-boggling, right? It's like you're taking this magnet that requires $1 million plus to put in a room. Now you're taking it out. And one thing Jonathan Rosberg founded the company, same guy founded Butterfly, that ultrasound. One of the missions was that we need to make sure we understand the low resource setting use case and environment, not just designed for the ICUs here in the US, but design how it's going to be used in Sub-Saharan African Community Center, in India, places like that. So as part of that, earlier on, focus was that how do we do that? How do we understand that aspect of it? So we got actually Gage Foundation approached us as a grant to put 20 scanners in limited resource settings. And this ability to do this in pandemic and where we can't go to the hospitals to train people. We have to deliver it and we have to leave it at the loading dock. And they have to open it, never use it, learn how to turn it on, drive it to the ICU to start scanning patients all virtually. That helped us prepare our first delivery to Malawi, right? So Malawi, Africa, the scanner arrived, the customer opened up and we're scanning the first in 4 hours of delivery, which is like unheard of, right? So on this pandemic and escalated all of these processes, a lot of thought process, and really helped us prepare and think about how to do these things in a much more effective way. So I mean, it required a lot of behavior change, and not only from our preconceived ideas and how these going to be, but actually from customers themselves. Like, what do you mean there's nobody going to come and train us and live for a whole 2 weeks? Telling us how to do this kind of stuff. I mean, I think eventually we need to do that because we're customer success doesn't happen by just dropping things off. But anyway, lots of learnings.
You took an impediment to the world in terms of.
Just, other people have.
Sorry.
Things they get. But yes, he definitely took an impediment. Bradley, before you go, since you're the first one to go, give me your prediction. I'm sorry. You can get back to this topic. We can continue now, or we can. But I know Brett's. So I wanted people to sort of give me a tweet, give me a short version, just go down the line of what you think the future holds in this. What do we call it? Peri-COVID existence for your particular area of interest or expertise, right? So something like, this will be like this because of this. I don't know. Short.
Well, I guess what I'd say is that what's happened in the last 16, 17 months has, I think, accelerated a lot of change that was slowly moving along. And I think things like remote patient monitoring, providing support for independent living, consolidation of physician practices, kind of industrialization of medicine to some extent, has just accelerated, I think, much more rapidly. It was already going to happen, but it probably took a decade for that trend.
So you don't think this is a rubber band that's going to snap back? You think that it broke through, it's just going to keep on going?
Oh, I don't think it's going to snap back a little bit. I mean, I was in New York during September 11th, and we all thought our entire world was never going to be the same again. Obviously, it's a very different, specific kind of thing, but it's similar. We are all who we are, and we all kind of will drift back a little bit to our old ways, and the profits and incentives of the industry are still the same way. So people are still going to try to be making their money off the system in the ways that they traditionally have. But some of it's not going back. I mean, I think 70% of physicians now are employed. That's happening.
That's a way that goes up and down.
Well, maybe they'll spin them off again, but most of them are owned by hospitals, some on private equity roll-ups like Village MD here in Chicagoland area. So I don't know that that's going to go back. So I don't know. I hope it doesn't.
It's interesting. Sunday, Washington. Would you like to give your forecast of what's going to
I-
happen?
yes,
Right,
sir.
if you have to go, just let the, Go ahead.
I do. Once again, what I see for the patient in the foreseeable future is great things to come along with the introduction of innovations. It's good that the patient is no longer being kept to the side, but actually brought into the middle of the conversation. And the focus of the medical industry now is on the patient, which is where it should be. And we're being allowed to push forward by actually saying what it is and what we want. We're being allowed to advocate for ourselves, and more doctors are listening and just, having us come along as equal partners. So that's a good thing, because as innovations come, we'll be at the forefront, not in the middle, being introduced to something that's already on the market. So I only see the good things coming to patients as we continue to move forward in this COVID.
It's a good new term. I never heard it, but it's a good term. Well, I'm glad you didn't walk out on the pitch track. I never would walk out. Exactly. So, just a round of applause for Brad. Okay, so we'll finish this up real quick, and then we have to leave by 9:30. Then we're going to go someplace else. So let's just keep on going down the line.
We focused a lot on telehealth and digital health, but I think the pandemic also challenged healthcare organizations, providers, anyone who provides care, right, in ways that we did not expect to see. And it required healthcare organizations to be so much more nimble and agile and change in a very short duration. It stretched everyone so thin. I feel like that's a change in state of mind. And now, yes, it was caused by the pandemic, but I think it's shown healthcare organizations that they can actually be a little more nimble than they imagined that they were, whether it's operationally or even in terms of providing care. So there's much more, I think, even beyond telehealth and the wide adoption of telehealth. But yes, it's a change in state of mind to say, hey, we did it during pandemic.
Yes, it's a change.
Right.
They've gone from
Right.
quiescent to active.
Right.
Con?
I think change is inevitable, like from med device manufacturing, it's smaller, faster, better, cheaper. It's all about timing, those who figure out the business model and those who are able to scale it. That's it, right? I mean, and that's how I think about when I think about investments and things like that. Like,
Yeah, it will slow down after COVID slows down. I mean, I think once it gains momentum, that's the next sort of momentum, obviously, even momentum. I think it's hard to stop that. Malta, physicians last word on the topic, and also, but no, you also run a foundation for India and are globally involved with students.
So I think that COVID and peri-COVID times have allowed us to focus on things that we normally wouldn't have focused upon.
True.
And it's allowed us to reevaluate what we find important and what we don't find important. Whether that is health, whether that is family, whether that is race, whether that is the status of our lives.
I couldn't say it better. And that's a really great point to close. What a fantastic panel. I know three of them. I do have the statistics on who did the best in this pitch contest, so I want to thank the judges and the panelists for those discussions. So just so you know what teams are actually winning, it's not just a cool snow globe. This all started, we did an event called the Crystal Ball, and it was a snow globe, and we made Esther Dyson and a bunch of other people look into the crystal ball and predict the future, just like these kids did. Anyway, so that's kind of where these awards came from, because we had a crystal ball. So unfortunately, everybody can't win. Although I do think a lot of good things happen, because a lot of the people in their judging information gave a lot of information, which we'll be passing on. And hopefully people learn from things. So the team that didn't win, but got the third highest score. And Tony, you're excluded because you already won one of these. I'm sorry, you don't get to play this game. So Tony would have been. Anyway, so the other third place was, so you don't get one of these. But we will be inviting. You can have, okay. So no, but we will be paying a lot of attention to you. We'll ask for more information. And all they're winning anyway is getting into our due diligence process, which means that that guy and that guy are gonna ask you a ton of questions. And then if you guys make it past them, then I'll ask you a ton of questions. Anyway, and then we might invest and accelerate you. So, okay, so the crowd favorite, the team that that everybody really liked, but didn't quite win. So we call it the crowd favorites. Isaac from Double Tank. So come on up here, Isaac. We got 60 boys for having a good, you know. I'm kidding. I like Isaac. I've worked with him for a while. So congratulations. Somebody take a picture or something. Oh, I didn't even mention Sanal. Sanal is the graphic designer who made that amazing graphic that we have here. This thing. So really, so this is, you know, you got the whole opening the world thing. So it's cool font. So thank you, Sanal. So anybody who's graphic designer should be amazing.
Can you leave it in?
Okay, so stand it. Hey, hold on, take this. Hold it up like it's, you know, your favorite new toy. Okay, it's all good. Okay, good job. I think there's gonna be no surprise here. Peter, no. Jessica Brisson. Nobody sat on that thing, yeah, so I don't want to, congratulations. Okay, so yeah, this is yours. Congratulations, and so we will be sending you information and such. All right, so okay, a great event, everybody. There's some food, there's pizza, there's beverages. If you want to help clean up and then pick up the pens, papers, whatever, we gotta help them get here. We're going to go someplace after. Sharad. I'll probably go to karaoke or something. So, Sharad, Patrick, where are we going? You guys decide. I don't care. You gotta tell everybody. I know you guys, it's great meeting each other, but